We're live.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's in the waiting room.
Well, that's because we were supposed to go live a minute ago.
Okay.
But we are live now. Hello, everybody. Everybody, hello. Welcome to the one and only, but perhaps one of many Copy That's, the Copy That Show, featuring 5 copywriters and marketers by the name of Sean, who is a person that is me. We have a Rod, who is a person that is him. We have an Alex, who's 2 people over from me. We have a Lindsay, and we have a Luke, who's like all the way on the opposite corner from me. It's almost like we have completely opposite perspectives about every single thing on the planet. We're going to argue over the course of the show. Stay tuned for it. Now, we have a lovely, lovely show planned for you today. I don't know if you've noticed this, but the videos that have been coming out on copythat.com youtube.com/the Copy That Show, they've been a little bit more cohesive recently. Perhaps even, dare I say, a little less rambly than perhaps you're all used to. Certainly pre-planned a little bit better. Now, that is by intent and design, perhaps. And we're going to continue with that because we have been doing what we've been calling internally focus months. As in, we have been spending 1 month on a particular topic, then another month on another topic. Last month, the focus was, how does one get into copywriting in 2023? How does one even begin? Now, if you have come to this presentation with those kinds of questions, you can certainly click the link presented in the description below, or you can go to the URL in the banner that somebody is going to click on right now, and you can go and watch that and learn all of our tips, tricks, advice for becoming a copywriter in 2023. Now, this month, the focus is going to be becoming a better copywriter in 2023. So, okay, you're already in, you already decided that you want to do this. You already have grand designs on plans on becoming the best copywriter of all time. Kudos to you. But how do you get there? How does one do a better copy? How does one get higher paying gigs? How does one create words that are better than what ChatGPT can create? Well, that's what this particular episode of Copy That is going to be about. So over the course of the next hour and a half to 2 hours, we're going to be talking about that. We are going to be talking about different levels of improvement as well. So we're going to focus initially in the early parts of this show on what a beginner would need to do to improve their copy. You know, how do you go from 0 to 1, for example? Because copywriting is a very, very different kind of writing. It is a very different approach to writing. And a lot of people that are just entering this field don't really realize it. And they certainly don't have the honed sensibilities that would allow them to even tell what those differences are. Then we're going to focus on intermediates, people that are making money, people that are making consistent money with their copywriting abilities. And we're going to talk about what they need to do to improve their copywriting and hopefully, as a result, getting bigger and bigger checks. Then we're going to end the show, and it's probably going to be a fairly brief discussion where we talk about senior level writers. That is, people that, you know, they've risen to the higher ranks and echelons of their organizations, or they've been freelancing for a long time, and they're at the point where they're now mentoring other people. They're at the point where they're more in charge of like strategy and entire campaigns, generally having a bigger sense of what one needs to do to use copy to grow a business. And so we'll be focusing towards the end of the show on that kind of conversation. Now, before we get started on the first thing that I was hoping to talk about today, and I've been talking far too much today already, I wanted to point out that on Thursdays recently, we have been doing critiques, live critiques of people on youtube.com/copythat. And specifically, we are doing critiques for people that are subscribed to patreon.com/the Copy That Show. Now, normally at the beginning of any podcast, I'm sure many of you could attest, if you are a podcast listener, that it often opens up with an ad. We do not have an ad for you. That is because the only sponsor of Copy That is Copy That. And, of course, viewers like you, if you are into PBS, which I am. And so we can't do this show without you. Every single person who is watching right now, we love you and we appreciate you. Every single person who has bought one of our programs or subscribed to us on Patreon, we're greatly appreciative of you. And we hope that we can show over the course of the show, as well as in our paid products, our appreciation right back for your support. And with your support and additional support, we're going to just continue making the show better and better. And now, in the short term, we can certainly make the show better by not talking about how you can make the show better. Rather, we can talk about how people can make their copywriting better. So why don't we kick off and start the show with a discussion not of the best advice we would give to beginners, but rather the mindset one needs to have in order to improve their copy. Because this is, I think, a sticking point that many people have and something that I think is worth talking about. Who'd like to begin?
Rod, go for it, Rod. You might drown otherwise.
Yeah, no, I'm drowning in excitement and enthusiasm because one, I just love to be here, but two, this is a topic that I also love talking about. So I think the one thing that everyone has to learn and come to terms with is the fact that you suck at copywriting, and you will always suck at copywriting, because no matter how good you get, you will look at something you just wrote and think, God, that was just awful. And the sooner you come to terms with the fact that your writing will always be awful, and the only thing you can do is write it and then make it better, iteratively, the easier it will be to get over yourself and just keep writing.
I think what Rod means is when he says your writing will always be awful, is that if you are stuck in your house practicing theory all day, trying to wait for the opportunity for your copy to be good before you put it out in the world, that day will never arrive. Right? Is that what you mean, Rod?
Yes.
There will always be something to improve. You will always feel like you could be better. There's always more to learn. I've been in the direct response business since 2013, and I still feel like there's as much to learn still that I've learned in these last 10 years. And so I think that is a really good point. You will always feel like you can be better.
Yeah. And I think on that note, this is a phrase that caused some controversy the last time I said it, and I hope doesn't get as demonetized. But you've got to get used to killing your babies with copy. You've got to kill your baby, right? With copy, because as both of you are alluding to, you get so attached to it when you first write it, and this maybe is differing slightly from understanding there's always something to learn, but also realizing that at the beginning, beginners can go one of two ways. Either you have massive imposter syndrome and you feel like, man, I can't do any of this, or you feel like, man, this is easy. I'm the best at this. I'm so good. As humans tend to do. You have to get used to looking at the copy you've written and just immediately saying, okay, I know this isn't very good. I'm going to start again. And the urge is to, when you've worked on something, to continue working on it, to edit it and to iterate on it, and to not throw it away because you feel like, oh, I want to keep the stuff that was good. But so often, I think one of the biggest kind of leveling up methods you can use as a beginner is just getting used to deleting a whole document that you've just been working on. When someone says, hey, this isn't good, it doesn't work, delete the whole thing and just start again from those very, very core fundamentals, which I'm sure we will go through this episode.
Can I add one thing to that?
Of course.
No.
Shit. Well, I'm going to do it anyway.
Don't do a cuss. We're live on YouTube.
Yeah, I just said kill children. I didn't say a swear.
I think that one's okay. We're just trying to avoid the hard ones, No hard Fs or Rs or Cs or anything like that.
Or Ds.
Anyway, one thing I think it's really worth to point out, Alex, is that there are often times when you will write something, you will rewrite it, you'll look at it, you'll be like, wow, this is really well composed. I've got all my components here. I've addressed the audience. I've just like their problems. I've addressed everything that this piece of copy needs to hit. You send it to the client, you know, they're like, okay, cool, copy, and they put it out there, and it just doesn't work for whatever reason. It's like bad day, bad time of the month, and like you will have written something that's like really, really good, and it still just won't really deliver. And so on top of that mindset of just like constantly rewriting and editing and revising on a personal level, I do think there's an additional thing that people need to have in mind or kind of come to accept, in that it's not just you and how good you are, it's also the environment, it's also the audience, it's also a lot of things outside of your control. And one, coming to terms with like that audience and kind of trying to learn and be curious about it even when your stuff doesn't land. But two, it's also just kind of being okay with something not hitting. It's okay to fail, it's okay to flop, as long as you come back at it the next time, even when it feels like it's out of your control.
You were dancing around another point that I would like to move on to as like a mindset point. You are, when you are doing copy, you're not writing for yourself. You're not writing according to what sounds good to you. You are not writing based on an original idea that you had that you think could, you know, you dreamt about last night. You think maybe this could work. You are writing for an audience, a very specific audience that has specific desires and wants and needs, and you are writing to them. It's not based on what you think sounds good. And a second, a kind of another point on that I think beginner copywriters need to wrap their head around is you are also not reinventing the wheel here. A lot of learning copywriting is going out in the wild, seeing what is working and learning from that and leaning into that, you know, based on also, you know, marrying that with your understanding of your target market too. It was a surprising thing for me in the beginning when I started learning about copywriting is how much of it is, I hate to use the word knocked off, but like that kind of is the word, right? Like you are studying what's working and you are using it, you know, it's not copywriting. I mean, you obviously don't want to go out and jack someone else's work, but so much of copywriting is seeing what is working and using that to your advantage.
So, Luke, I haven't heard from you very much in this conversation about mindset. I know you have some thoughts on it, but I do. Would you like to go first before I get into a spiel that sort of crystallizes a couple of points that both Robin and Sophia made?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll try to be a little brief as well. I think what you guys said is very, very valid. I think one of the most important things to, you know, when you're doing anything, you're trying to get better at anything, is to adopt a growth mindset, to be a little less focused on, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to be that. And I'm going to like ace everything and like it's going to be a breeze, or, you know, or the opposite of that. Like everything I'm going to do is going to be failure. I think you just need to have, you know, a healthy, I guess, realistic, you know, point of view or mindset where you're like, well, I'm trying to grow, I'm trying to improve, and improving means failing, and it means succeeding, and it means reflecting on what you've done right and what you've done wrong. And other than that, I think another really great mindset characteristic that you can have to really learn fast is to be very curious, to be just interested and curious about the copy that you're reading and the copy that you're writing. Like, ask yourself critical questions like, how can what I, you know, how has what I've been writing down, how can this be interpreted, right? Or when you're reading copy about other people, you can think, you know, how, what is this trying to accomplish? You know, what's the goal of this piece of copy here or this paragraph? Like, by being curious, you make learning so much easier because you genuinely become involved and engaged with the learning that you do. Like, if you can't shift your focus or your mindset to be like a curious person or a curious learner, it's going to be really hard to get better. It's going to be really hard to stay, you know, with any craft, you know, craft like copywriting, because copywriting is a craft. You know, you're just going to get burned out.
I think that is an excellent point, and it actually ties into the thing that I wanted to say, and sort of like put a what is it called in screenwriting? Button the scene. One of the things that beginners need to learn, and this is something that I would say a majority of beginners I've encountered need to learn, is that your copy is separate from you. One of the things that I notice is that most people take criticism, notes, edits very personally.
Mhm.
And that is because they've conflated their work with their identity. Now, if you go to youtube.com/copy that and look at our past videos, we actually had an entire discussion about that of, when is it the client, when is the client crappy, and when is it just you? And so I would advise you and encourage you to take a look at that video at your convenience. But basically, I went into an overlong metaphor where I basically compared the creation of copy to the creation of a table. If you're a professional table maker, you're going to look at the table you make, and over time, you're going to cultivate a sense of like, maybe this part was not sanded correctly. Maybe this part was not leveled correctly. I know I can do better next time, but it's good enough to function as a table. And almost all craftsmen and tradesmen have that approach to things. Plumbers think that way. Painters think that way. There's always something that you can improve. But one thing that is the difference between a copywriter and a craftsman or a tradesman is that copywriters take criticism personally.
Mhm.
Whereas a table maker or a cabinet maker, if your cabinet is lopsided, isn't hanging, the door is on one hinge, stuff like that, it's pretty obvious to see that the cabinet you made sucks nuts. And the thing that you need to do as a cabinet maker is redo it so that you get paid that hot, nasty money. Now, one thing that I've noticed among copywriters is that if you point out the fact that the cabinet they make, metaphorically speaking, is lopsided and doesn't work for you, they get real uppity real fast. They get so upset. They cry. They complain to like support groups on Facebook. It's stupid.
Mhm.
Because the copy that you make has nothing to do with you as a person. It either works for a business or it doesn't. And that takes me to the next point that I want to make, which is that there will be times where you make the perfect cabinet, but it doesn't fit the bill for the business. The copy that you make could bomb. Senior copywriters, people who've been doing this for decades, they only have a 30 to 50% hit rate. Like, for real. Even the most pro of the pros, the people that you listen to on YouTube, still put out things that are competent and good, but they don't work. And so you as a beginner have to adopt the mindset that failure is inevitable no matter what stage you are in the process. And also failure facilitates learning. That the faster and oftentimes bigger you fail early on in the career, the more your personal shame will motivate you to learn from that and grow in the future. And so what I would advise to people, because writerly types are the very anxious sort, they're sort of emotional glass jaws, they didn't want to get into writing to, interact with people, certainly, is to really sort of adopt that answer to anxiety is action mentality, which is to understand that failure is inevitable. You will fail, and you'll fail often. And every single time you fail, you'll be able to learn something from that. Now, once you get beyond that point, once you get into the more senior style roles, you're almost going to have to do the opposite, because you're going to encounter situations where something that you did works and what you've been doing works for a long time. Now, I have a few anecdotes from my personal career where I've seen copywriter gurus get hired as consultants, and they get hired to, write promos and stuff like that. And they get paid $1 million retainer and things like that. And they'll write a sales package, and they'll use all the tips and tricks and tactics that they teach in their courses and whatnot. And they'll sell nothing. They just fail constantly. The copy that they write might have worked in 2004, but it doesn't work now because they haven't been keeping up with the market, because they decided to devote their time, effort, and mental energy to solidifying what they learned 20 years ago and then selling what they learned 20 years ago. I'm not going to name names, but there are a number of fairly famous copywriting gurus who are like that, who have not had a hit package this decade, and yet they are still revered and put out YouTube videos. And so what I would advise to people as they progress in their career is to adopt something of, I believe in like Zen and Buddhism, it's called the beginner's mind. And I'm going to be talking about this
right.
a little bit later in the show, which is this notion that you have to ignore, or at least put aside, your prejudices, your presuppositions, the things that you know work, quote unquote. I would advise you to always leave a little bit of margin of error, a little room for doubt, so that you don't ignore out of hand something that contradicts your experience or your knowledge, because that is going to be the thing that teaches you once you get into those higher echelons. Would anybody like to add on or jump on that before we move on to advice for beginners in general?
I only want to add one thing before we move on, because I know people will be really interested in kind of practical step-by-step advice. But one thing I'll say is, Sean, you've taught me a fair few things over the years, but I've said this before in a previous video. I think the table video, where I said the most useful advice I got from you was when you said, like, view the copy as separate to you. Like, it's not your thing. It's not you on paper. It's a thing you're creating to try and fit a bill. And I wasn't being particularly bad with taking criticism. It just really helped me into the mindset of each thing I make is a test. All right. Like, it's something that I am saying every time I write something, and you watching, every time you write something, just, even if it helps you, just end the writing session with, this is a test. I'm going to put this out into the world and see if it works. I'm going to give this to a client and see if they like it. This isn't the best that I possibly have to offer and the most perfect it ever could be. This is a test. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, then I'll learn from it and move on. So that really helped me. And that's a genuine piece of advice, which is to do with mindset, that has changed how I approach copy, and I think my success in it as well.
Yeah, I wanted to start the show with a discussion of mindset, because I think people, especially on YouTube, come into these kinds of discussions expecting, like, the 12 copywriting, hacks that are going to make your copy explode with value and your clients love you and throw money under your door and over your transom and stuff like that.
I mean, we do that as well. But
we do that as well, but also we do other stuff, including focus first on the thing that's actually going to help you, which is advising you to adopt the right kind of mindset. Because we could, of course, tell you things like, recently certain types of headlines have been working, or recently, like, this particular marketing approach has been working really well for getting 6-figure clients and retainers. But, like, you discover that stuff by having the right mindset. Whereas you don't need to listen to people like us if you're just approaching things correctly. And so, and I know, not good for sales and stuff like that to tell people that they can do it on their own, but you can. So
you'll just get there faster and better and with more puns with us.
They could, maybe. We're not guaranteeing that, Rob.
Yes, it is entirely possible that they could potentially get better under our tutelage. And by tutelage, I mean by subscribing to patreon.com/thecopythatshow. Not that we're plugging anything.
We're plugging it.
We're definitely plugging it. So what I would like to move on to is, again, moving on to that first little bit, which is what advice we have for beginners when it comes to actually getting better at copy. I'll leave the floor open for general discussion, but I have a few focus questions if anybody would like to discuss.
I kind of feel like Lindsay, if you're okay with this, should lead the answering on this, because I know that Lindsay is going to have certainly more experience than Rod, I, or Luke with editing copy, and perhaps even Sean as well. I know you guys have lived in that world for so long. So Lindsay, I'd really love to hear from you on this.
We're talking about, like, as a beginner copywriter, how you yourself start to improve your copy.
Yes.
Like, as if you, am I just starting out for the first time, like putting brand new copy out there, or have I been doing this for a year, or what?
Let's start at the beginning And when we reach the end, we will stop.
Okay.
And by that, I mean, like, imagine that you are speaking to a person who's still writing copies instead of copy.
Okay. So I know you guys are, there are a lot of opinions about like deciding from the beginning what niche you're going to get in, right? But let's assume you've already like decided that you kind of know what type of copy it is that you're going to be writing. We have a bunch of videos about that, right, guys? It's all
We do.
on the YouTubes. So let's assume like you've kind of figured it out, and the first thing that you need to start doing, I'm going to assume you still have a day job. You got to pay the bills. So this is kind of going to be your part-time thing for now while you are trying to figure out if you can make a living out of this. So you got a couple hours a day, every day during the weekday, lunch hour or after work or before work, and then on the weekends. The first thing you're going to want to do is go out on the internet and see who is advertising, who are the customers, and what are they saying about the products that they're selling, and how are they advertising it. That's the first thing you got to do. That includes looking at digital ads. That includes signing up for email lists and paying attention to those emails once you start getting them in your inbox. Trying to decipher what are these emails trying to say, or what is this person trying to say, and then are they trying to sell me something? How much is that thing that they're trying to sell me? Like, what happens next? Try to see what happens next. Because you've entered the funnel, that business's funnel, and they are, now that they know you're a paying customer, they're going to want to sell you stuff, right? So trying to like really decipher what are the sales messages, how are they selling me, what are they selling me, and start taking notes about all of that stuff. And do that for a few products, and slowly you will start to pick up the main beats that the companies, the advertisers, the copywriters are using to talk about these products. You will start to figure out the language they are using. You will start to figure out the price points. You will start to get a sense of, okay, who is it they're talking to? How are they talking to these people, the customers? So that's number one. That's how you really get a pulse on the, who the competition is and what are they saying. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just to emphasize a point that you make in terms of actually looking at the copy that you get, and everybody is always sort of inundated and experiencing copy. Is somebody dragging a table off the tile floor again? Lindsay.
We do a lot of table dragging here at the house. It's just like, my kids don't have toys. That's just what they do.
They just have tables?
Just tables and sticks and stuff.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Considering my obsession with tables, I appreciate that. Now, just to emphasize a point that Lindsay made in terms of analyzing the copy that you experience in life and the copy that sort of surrounds your phenomenological experience of the world, I am going to make a point that might offend some of you. You ain't reading enough copy. You want to be a copywriter because you want that hot, nasty money. You want the check, but you ain't willing to do the work. You ain't signing up for email lists. You ain't reading your email. You ain't even clicking on ads. You probably browse the internet with ad block. And in fact, I know for a fact that some of you are doing this because we actually put out the advice to search the internet without ad block before. And we were like, do that because then you'll actually see the stuff that you want to get paid to write so that you can learn to write that kind of stuff.
People underestimate how much copy you need to read.
And here's something that shocked me when we put out that advice originally. People were like, nah, fam, I'm good. I'd prefer to just browse
write
the internet with ad block.
Yeah.
And so legitimately, one of the simply easiest things that a copywriter can do in the first year of them learning copywriting is read ads,
It
look
just
at ads.
it's such a big mindset change. Like when you start paying attention to that stuff, you see nothing else. You just see ads all the time, how much our lives are inundated with advertisements and marketing messages. And like you don't realize how tuned out you are to that, because like it's everywhere. I mean, it is everywhere. We tune it out because we're so inundated with it. You have to tune back into it, and you need to start paying attention to it and consuming a lot of advertisements.
Yeah. Imagine if you were a table maker who never looked at tables, never sat down to one. Imagine you never dragged a table across Lindsay's tiled floors. Like, that's what we're talking about here. Imagine you wanted to be a short story writer, but never read a short story.
Yeah.
I used to teach creative writing in college. Like, I taught as a professor, and that was so common. People were like, had these dreams and aspirations of being a world famous short story writer, of which there are precisely 3. George Saunders being one of them. So, one of those spots is full, guys. But they would just never read short fiction. How do you expect to learn to do something if you don't actually look at the things you're trying to do? And that is, I think, an exceptional piece of advice for most of the people here, because once you start actually forcing yourself to pay attention to ads, looking not just at the copy itself, but where you see these things, where things lead to, what things connect to, how this all works, simply being aware of that will get you just a 40% jump in your abilities and knowledge almost immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires, you don't have to pay for a course for that. You don't have to pay anybody for that. You can just live and look around, which unfortunately most people don't do. So do that, and you'll immediately get a sense of how to improve. Now, that is for pure novices.
Yep.
Once you get a little bit better, once you do start to notice stuff, then there's other stuff you can do. But before we move on to that, I was wondering if Rod, Alex, or Luke, you had anything that you would like to add for true novices, people who are just like, oh, I heard somebody on a TikTok mention copywriting is a money-making opportunity. How do I do copywriting?
I think I got something I want to say to add on to the last point, which actually comes back to something Luke said at the beginning, which was what you guys are talking about there, Sean and Lindsay. It comes down to that need for curiosity, like that almost requirement for it. And I think that a piece of advice I have for novices, because there will be people out here, there'll be people watching this right now, and you might be thinking, I want to be a copywriter, I want to live the dream, like I don't want a boss, I want to be able to freelance, I want to do all this stuff, which we've discussed in other videos. But you will be thinking, but reading a lot of stuff sounds kind of boring. Like, I just want to do it now. I just want to do it now. A way to almost trick yourself into being curious about this stuff is to look for copywriting everywhere, not just in ads that you don't want to watch, but when you're on YouTube. YouTube, as all 5 of us can appreciate over the last year or so, is a phenomenal place to look at copywriting. A certain type of copywriting, I would say, but things like thumbnails, things like titles of videos, descriptions, trying to get you to click on things, YouTube video scripts, YouTube ads, obviously, that come up, in feed ads on YouTube. So not just ones like before videos, but also ones as you're scrolling and searching. That's just one place where you can start to ask yourself a question wherever you're looking at stuff, wherever there is written text anywhere in the world, not just on ads or obvious ads, but like, why is that interesting? Or what's that doing well? Or why did that get my attention? Anytime that something hooks you, why did it do that? Just start to ask those questions. When you see something out in public, like you're at a train station and you see a big billboard, and it makes you stop and look, and you find yourself reading it. Ask, why did it do that? That's going to start to help to pique that curiosity, definitely. Same with things like trailers for movies, video games you think you might enjoy. Of course, there are other things that come into it all, but if you are someone who is like, I really want to get into copywriting, but reading sounds really boring right now, ease yourself into it with things you're already interested in, and just start to ask yourself these questions. We've done plenty of videos in the past about the fundamentals of copywriting and things of that nature. Go and watch those. learn what the fundamentals of copywriting and persuading people are, and then have a look at where that's cropping up in life. That's a really good way to get yourself into it. So that, I think, is the last thing I would say, just piggybacking on what you guys were talking about.
I do have a couple more tips too, whenever you guys are done.
Really quick, I want to show something that could be helpful to novices, because here's another related question. Like, how do I learn copies? Well, the follow-up question usually is, where do I even find copy? Now, if you go to Google and search for literally anything, you will find ads. Typically at the top of your search results, it will say sponsored or promoted or ad. If you click on those, you will have done copywriting research, because you will be looking at an ad and then clicking onto a landing page. That landing page could be a variety. You learn all that stuff from our other videos and through the process of doing this. Now, if you want to do something, how should I say, a little bit more direct, and you want to actually find copywriting out in the wild, copywriting that worked, I'm going to show you my screen really quick. Hey, this is Google. I typed in Facebook ad library. I'm going to click on it. Hey, it's the top result. There you go. Now this, we can click on all ads, and let's say that you are an aspiring copywriter and you just woke up this morning and you were just hot and horny to sell umbrellas. You just woke up and you were like, my God, do I want to be a copywriter in the umbrella selling niche? Well, you go to the Facebook ad library and you type motherfucking umbrellas. And all of a sudden, not only do you see all the short form ads, but guess what? Short form ads, especially Facebook ads, are really interesting because marketers discovered a little bit of a secret. The same stuff that works for email copy works for short form Facebook copy. And in fact, those of you who are a member of different email lists, you might find that some of the emails that you get might find their way into Facebook as ads, because oftentimes you could just copy paste those because they still work. And so you could just scroll through ads and you could just, hey, I want to learn more about this by Frankfurt Shade. Look at that umbrella. Oh my God. Look at how this landing page is written. Oh, an Aurora cantilever?
The cantilever design.
Oh, it's cantilever design. The fiberglass. Look at how to select an umbrella for your home. Look at all this copy. Look at these bullets. Look at that social proof. This is how you learn copy. You look at copy. Where do you find copy? This is an easy place. It is literally a repository for you to go and look and learn copy, especially about umbrellas.
I do think this brings up a really good point, though, Sean. Like, this is a very helpful tool, but I think we need to acknowledge that, like, as a beginner copywriter, maybe you came upon this idea of copywriting as like, hey, people who get paid a lot of money to write sales copy or whatever. So you start digging in, but like, we need to acknowledge that copywriting exists in a universe that like speaks a different language than most people are hearing. And I just remember in the beginning how that was a big thing. Like, you need to understand copywriting is just a little thread. Like, you pull on it and now you are in the world of digital marketing. I mean, it's like learning a new language for a lot of people. And so I think, like, to that end, you need to like read some basic books to get like basic terminology down and understand where copy lives, what it looks like, the context that it exists in, right? So what would you guys say are, like, if you had to pick like 3 books for somebody who's just starting out understanding, let's call it digital marketing, right? Which is, a lot of copy nowadays lives online, but it's not exclusively. What books would you say that people should read?
So I really want to take this one. You should not right now, after this video, we have a whole 101 series on just how to start copywriting. That's on youtube.com/copy that, which you can see down there. Or if you're on YouTube watching this, just click the channel, which is much easier. But if you go to that and you find the 101 playlist, Sean and I go over all the kind of absolute basics for novices. I think something we're really bad at on Copy That, I think, is referencing stuff we've done in the past. Like we like plugging occasionally, and we always throw to Patreon on Copy That YouTube channel, but I always forget we have actually done things to build on this. Go to the 101 playlist. If you go to copythatshow.com, there is also a guide. Yes, Sean.
The Copywriting 101 playlist is linked in the description below this video on YouTube. So
It's almost like
I
we had a
definitely
plan.
anticipated that we would be mentioning that. So please go on, Alex.
So yeah, so click in the description to get the 101 playlist. Go to copythatshow.com and see the How to Start Copywriting guide, because that is going to give you the absolute basics you need to know. I don't think there's anything else you need to know. You don't even need to read a book outside of that. You can, and I personally would suggest you read 1 or 2. So I'll come on to your question in a moment, Lindsay. But go and have a look at those resources, because that is going to give you the absolute grounding that you need in this world. Similarly, I've also done a video which I was really proud of, which was just a glossary video. And there's also the 5-hour video, I guess, which would probably be more pertinent. But there's also a glossary video where I go through, like, I don't know, 100 terms that you need to know as a copywriter. They're just all there. I explain them all. I give examples. Once you have that down, then what Sean is talking about really comes to the forefront, which is having a look at real life copy. A quick other tip is to, there's a YouTube version of the Facebook ad library called VidTao or VidTao, depending on how you want to pronounce it. VidTao. If one of you guys would be so kind to link that in the chat, just so people can find it. That's another great space to learn copywriting. In terms of books, there's always 2 books that I recommend for anyone wanting to start out. Number 1 is Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins, which was the first proper book I read, and it's still to this day, I attribute so much of my success to it. And secondly is Great Leads by John Ford and Michael Masterson, which is just a phenomenal book on copywriting specifically. So that is what I would say to those questions. I don't want to give a full list of recommendations, because I honestly think Copy That resources and those 2 books, more than enough to get you started and to push you out into the world of advertising.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. We've given book recommendations before. If you go to copythatshow.com, not only will you find the glossary that Alex referenced, which breaks down very simply every single term that you need to know, and also has his video at the very top so he can walk you through it and show you examples. We also have a list of the books that we recommend. Now, I've shared this story on stream before, but I don't want you, person watching or listening, now that we have a Spotify podcast, to get it in your head that you need to read book after book after book, that you need to read every book. And you certainly do not need to read Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz, because it's expensive, and also because you're not ready for it until you're an intermediate. I read 2 books when I first started copywriting. And then I reached out to Mark Ford, aka Michael Masterson, and I said, so what should I do next? Should I take a course? Should I read another book? What should I do? And he said, that's enough theory. Start reading copy. I'm telling you, I'm imploring you to read more ads, because your copywriting will improve tremendously. Somebody's typing. I can hear it.
Is that me?
I think that
so.
brings up another point, Sean, if you're done.
I'm done.
You were so fortunate to have Mark that you could go to and be like, now what? Now what do I do? And, I also had him. Most people don't have that. Most people are, by themselves, coming home after the day job. You can go write in a vacuum, and you can, try to learn this in a vacuum. You will learn so much faster if you join a community. And I'm not just saying that because we have one and it's free and you can join. But it's inspiring. You see what other people are doing. You see, other people post their wins. They're talking about learning resources that they loved. If you are plugged into a group of like-minded people, you will just learn a lot faster. I've worked with people who tried to learn copywriting and tried to learn direct response. And I'm in the, like Sean, the financial space. I've worked with people who never went to the office, and like I've got to tell you, like 3 years in, and there's still like, I still find myself repeating stuff that like people should have learned by the first 6 months. And then I've also worked with and trained people in an office setting. I myself have worked in an office setting, and I myself have worked out of an office setting. You will never learn as much as you do when you are surrounded by people who are all moving in the same direction, doing the same thing. So that is something that I would definitely recommend for beginners. And also finding a mentor. Like you and I had Mark, and I think that was that is a game changer in the learning curve.
So mentors are good, but one of the things that I've been harping on recently is that I think mentors are not good for beginners.
Okay.
Simply because, like, for example, you and I, did we ever go to Mark and be like, is it copies or copy?
Yeah.
We never went to Mark and said, like, so what is a funnel? You know, like, there's a certain threshold of knowledge that you need in order to have mentorship actually be valuable to you. And certainly if you're paying for mentorship, like, do you want to go to a mentor and have him assign you Where's Waldo? No. Like, that'd be a waste of your time and your money. And so, like, why would you waste a mentor's time if you're still learning the basics? And by the way, the whole point of us having a YouTube channel is to teach you the basics for free. And so, hopefully, once you get actual money from copywriting, mentorship makes more sense. And once we get to the intermediate advice,
that's a good point.
Then I want to say, like, okay, here's the question: when do you need mentorship? But we're not there yet. We're still talking to beginners. We're still talking to newbies. Rod, I have a sense that you want to say something, but I'd love to jump and answer a few questions before I go to the next topic of discussion.
That's actually what I was going to say. So you got it.
Oh, well then, sorry. I apologize for stealing your lines again. So we have a question. Do you think reading style guides help? I am reading one by Virginia Tuft. I hope it's Artful Sentences, because that book is wonderful. But do you guys think that style guides help with copywriting? No.
I don't think I've ever read a style guide.
I've read like 5, something like that. I think the journalism ones are pretty good, but like the pure grammar ones are not that great.
Style guides are good if you want to be a proofreader. But if you want to be a copywriter,
it made me a better editor, though. I wouldn't say it made me a better copywriter, but it made me a better editor. Made me think about language deeper. So,
I think the important thing is we should be thinking, what is a style guide for, right? And so, style guides are to help establish consistency, maybe increase clarity in certain instances. They are not good for teaching you how to write persuasively. They don't teach you how to write interestingly. They're just there to make sure that what you put out is understandable, which honestly is the bare minimum for copywriting. And if you write in a way that is understandable but boring or not persuasive, you have failed. And so while I would certainly suggest a style guide to someone who maybe is learning English or brushing up on their English language writing, if you graduated from high school, you can probably write well enough that that should not be your focus.
I do feel like there's a question at the heart of this question. Like, it's not really about the style guide. It's more about, like, do I need to be a good writer, right? Like, maybe the person who submitted this question, like, English is their second language. And so I think that there's just a natural propensity to kind of like feel like you need to have perfect style and perfect English to be a copywriter, but like you don't at all. And I've told this story on here before, but like one of the best copy chiefs that I know of, like, preferred to hire people who had English as a second language because their writing was just so much more accessible than somebody who was an English major and, was used to writing compositions and like didn't know how to speak normally, right? And like didn't know how to write accessibly. And so like, I hope that's reassuring for some people. And I feel like that's really the question here. It's not really about the style guides. It's more just like, do I need to have the perfect, do I need to speak and write perfect English? No.
But do they mean something like the Chicago Manual style, or is it more like, like a Zinsser on writing or Stephen King on writing? Because I think those are really great.
Those are
really
helpful.
good books.
Well, think about the difference between on writing versus the Chicago Manual of Style, or
Yes.
even Virginia Tufts' Artful Sentences.
Mhm.
One of them,
one's like pulling teeth.
yes. One of them is prescriptive.
Mhm.
The other one is more about teaching you how to think about language.
Yes.
Mhm.
Learning to think about language is valuable, especially for people who went to college, because they often have learned a way to write. But I can tell you from 7 years of experience as a college composition professor, teaching rhetoric and teaching writing, that there is nothing worse on the planet than student essay kinds of writing. That, honestly, like Ebola, barely worse than freshman composition style writing. Like, seriously, like it, let's be real. It is definitely worse, but it's not that much worse.
Yeah, I take
this
my
is
thing back.
really
Like,
cool.
some people sometimes call style guides, like, they sort of like mix them with like books about writing, because those are great. Like, reading good books
Yes.
from like journalists or nonfiction writers, it's an incredible resource. But I mean, I've never read a style guide. I've never read the fucking Chicago Manual of Style, and I'm not planning on doing any of that. So
Nor should
like,
you.
screw that. Like, yeah.
So we talked about style guides. Read books about persuasion, about sales, about the kinds of things that you can get paid for. Cash Advertising is a good book, but I like Scientific Advertising as a good start, because not only does it teach you how to think about how to write in this business, but also it's free. It is literally free. It is in the public domain. You can get a legally free copy anywhere in the world. So if you're curious about starting copywriting, start there, at the place where you don't have to spend any money on it.
Yeah,
I think it
like-
includes My Life in Advertising as well. I think that one's also free. It's like you can get both his books.
Yeah, my copy is physical, and it just looks like it was printed on like a primary school computer with like Comic Sans-esque stuff. It just, so yeah, I think this was like £2 or something. So yeah, definitely worth it.
So next question that we have before we move on: how do you know if it's good copy or bad copy? Now, you're not going to know until you get a little bit of experience under your belt. But I can tell you this from experience, that if you're looking in the Facebook ads library, or if you're looking in your email, what I want you to do is look and see if you're getting the same offers or seeing the same ads again and again and again. Because it costs money, directly or indirectly, to advertise things. And so if you see something a lot, it's working. And if it's working, it's probably good copy. That's the advice that I have there. And you will eventually develop what Mike Palmer calls the golden gut, what Lindsay has talked about before, which is this sort of like indescribable sense of what makes copy good or bad. And that is going to be very specific to you. You're going to develop what is called your own idiosyncratic sense of language, which is a very fancy way of saying you know how to write good. And you will be able to get a sense of whether some writing is good or bad.
I do think that's more intermediate though already, like that
Yes.
stuff.
That is far more for intermediates.
100%.
And one of the things that I've definitely noticed is that many novices cannot tell the difference between merely competent writing and good writing. And I noticed this especially when we talk about the kind of writing produced by ChatGPT, which we don't need to get into because we talked about that in the last show. So I think we had one more question. Let's see. Questions related to the topic at hand. Here we go. How do you overcome the thought of there are several other tons of better copywriters reaching out to a potential client you may want to reach out to? And what I have to say to that is sometimes they busy, sometimes they're too expensive. Lindsay
also,
and
let
I
the client decide. Like, let the client decide whether they think you're good enough or not. Like, let them read your copy.
Yeah, let the market decide. Don't let your own anxiety be the thing that makes decisions for you, because it's stupid. Your anxiety is stupid, and you shouldn't listen to it. And so, one thing that I would go as a step beyond that is, Lindsay and I are going to be doing a masterclass, a junior level masterclass about editing, critiquing, how to improve your writing. We're recording that, I believe, tomorrow, and that's going to come out over the next month or so. It's big. It's going to be a big masterclass. I think we're going to make part or all of it free so that people can benefit from it. If it's part of it is not free, then it will be available on, of course, patreon.com/thecopythatshow. But one of the things that we're going to talk about there is that we are now living in a world where, clients used to have to choose between 2 of 3 things: fast, cheap, or good. And now, because of AI writing and because of the proliferation of newbie copywriters on Fiverr and Upwork, fast and cheap, that market is saturated. It is easy to get fast, cheap copywriting now. So what is a girl to do? Get good. I finally was able to deliver the what is a girl to do without laughing.
It's also your best piece of advice ever. Get good.
It is.
We can end the stream.
Done. So let's talk
Well,
more about
real fast. One more from the comments. I just want to point this out while we're wrapping up kind of like this, beginner stuff. Kanisha asks, do you have a step-by-step guide, like by month, example, month 1, read this, for example, to learn copywriting? I want to point out that Luke did a phenomenal job putting together a free 21-day course where he basically curates like that exact thing. This is what you do. Go to copywriters.com, sign up for the email list. And then like he drips out day by day, do this, now this. And it's like curated with that exact question in mind for people looking for a plan, people looking for like a syllabus to follow. That's where you get it.
Yep.
And it's free. It
And
is
it's free
if you put in your email.
Yeah.
It's free because we love you, and only we love you. Nobody
No
else
one
loves
else.
you.
Thank you for doing that, Luke.
Can I add one more
Yeah,
thing? too?
of course. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, go ahead.
So just on the topic of the last question about like not wanting to reach out because you feel like your competition is so good. There are a lot of instances in which the best copywriter for a given job is not the most skilled copywriter. And to give a personal example of this, right now I'm working with a client who's in the space that I don't typically work in, and they have a team of people under them. And so oftentimes I will write them an email and they'll, tweak it tweak a word here or there and send it back to me just like for an okay before we send it out. And oftentimes they will like make changes to things like phrasing that I would have never thought of that actually work way better just because they're much more familiar with their niche than I am. And so even if you don't feel like you're the best copywriter, if you have an area that you're familiar with, that you're really comfortable with, say there's like a subculture thing, say you're like really into like fidget spinners on TikTok and someone wants fidget spinner TikTok content, you might be the best person right this second to write those scripts, even if you don't feel like you're the best copywriter. And so if you have confidence in any part of your abilities, definitely it's worth reaching out because you may be the best person for the job, even if you're not the most experienced copywriter.
Was somebody whistling in the background?
It was like a sea shanty backdrop. I liked it.
I liked it
More of
too.
that.
I live on a pirate ship.
Lovely. I like that. A couple of more questions before we move on to more advice for beginners. I'm answering these questions because it's good beginner and novice advice. What if your copy innovation gets bad critiques? Well, your copy innovation might suck ass. Don't innovate for the first 10 years of your career. Period. Don't.
Thank you
End of
for
story.
feedback that improves me in my writing. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, that's how you respond.
That's how you respond.
So, next question that we have is, we have a compliment. Copy That is truly the best copywriting show out there. They are invaluable insights and will hold nothing back, making it well worth your investment of time and money. Well, if you're watching the show, you have invested only time and no money, and I hope that we can continue doing that, and we would like to say that we appreciate everybody tuning in right now. Now, we also had another question. Let me see where I can find it. Where can I access Luke's 21-day special planning madoodle gababa? And that is at copythatshow.com. If you go there, put in your email address, we will email you for 21 days in a row. Yes.
And tell you exactly what to do. If you are a beginner, do this and then this and then this. And by the end of those 21 days, you'll have a great foundation.
Yeah, and just to warn you, we are going to market to you, but most of our marketing is like, hey, we have a new stream coming. Hey, we have this cool thing that we made. Would you like to see it? That is the level of marketing that we're capable of at this moment.
And inappropriate jokes, if you like that kind of thing.
Oh my God, too many inappropriate jokes. And so let's move on to another topic related to giving advice to novices, giving advice to newbies just starting out, which is let's talk about practicing copy. This is a question we get a lot. How does one practice copy and writing copy?
Oh,
boy,
good
that's
question.
a big one. Yeah, Luke, do you want to take this?
I don't know. I feel like I've learned copy in a little bit of an indirect way also. Like I feel like sort of Lindsay, what she was talking about like developing the golden gut and just reading lots of copy really just helped me get better. If I reflect on my progress as a copywriter, like I would just see this gradual growth that simply came from reading lots of copy, thinking about language, and reading ads and reading books about copywriting. That just really helped me. So that made me get better. So I guess that's one indirect way of practicing consistently. Another way, I guess, would be to be very critical of what you write. Not like, oh, is this good or bad, but just to like really try to write by the word. Don't like stitch together phrases, like really think about every word that you write down and construct your sentences, construct your paragraphs. You're building something up, and that thing that you're building eventually ends up becoming an argument. I think that's a good way to practice. I mean, it's sort of the topic we've been speaking about before in this stream, which is to consider it as a craft. Writing is rewriting.
Yeah, I think I'll expand on that and say I'm going to give you two very, very clear pieces of advice here for how to improve. One of them I kind of just started doing by chance, and it happened to help. Another one I had to work out over a course of about 3 years before I kind of realized, oh, if I do this, it's going to make things better. I'll start with that one because it's the most actionable. Before you practice writing a piece of copy, the underlying thing here is you have to write copy to practice it. So certainly in my view, the number one thing that you should be doing is just set out. You haven't got to plan it in depth, but just set out a few questions before you even start writing the copy. Now, basic level, those 4 questions are: who are you writing this for? What do they want? What do you want them to do? And what have they already seen? If you can just note down those 4 questions at the top of the document that you're writing in, it's going to help give you some focus. It's going to build the start of a track that you can then move down on. I think the worst thing that you can do is just start writing with no real idea about any of that, because then you just ramble, you go on tangents, much like a Copy That stream, and you just get lost and you can't improve on it because you don't even know where you started. You don't even know what you were trying to do, and it's very hard to then criticize yourself. I know self-critique is something we'll talk about in a little bit. So that's like the first piece of advice, and that took me quite a while to learn that. In my Secrets of Copywriting video, I talk about the 5 subconscious questions. So you can go and have a look at those if you want to see that. But a very, very basic version of those are just those 4 questions. Who are you writing for? What do they want? What do you want them to do? And then I can't even remember what the 4th one is. What have they already seen? What have they already seen is one that's more about understanding a funnel, but it's still important for a piece of copy. So those 4 questions, definitely recommend just noting those down at the top of a document. And then when you get to kind of the level that we're at, I no longer need to write those down because I just will be doing that anyway. That's the number one thing I would say. Just start with a plan, a bit of a direction before you start writing anything. Number 2, and this is something that I started doing from the very beginning because of a piece of advice I got when I was starting out, which is make sure you write a piece of copy every day. Just like Sean was saying about reading loads of copy, and Lindsay was saying about however much copy you think you're reading, like that's not enough. Write a piece of copy a day. No matter what it is, just get used to the process of writing something down. And with a mix of copy that's videos, hopefully getting some critiques from communities you're in, getting advice, joining our streams, and maybe getting your stuff critiqued there, it's all going to build up. And as long as you're writing one thing every day, you'll start to implement those lessons in what you're doing. So those will just build up and build up and build up. So those are two pieces of advice that I would give you. One that you can do right the second, another one that you can do just consistently.
Now, if people would like to get their copy critiqued by us live on stream, usually every other Thursday, what can people do?
Well, I think people should do a thing. Someone better be ready with a banner here, one of you guys. Hopefully I've given you enough warning. You could join patreon.com/the Copy That Show. We've done way too many plugs this episode.
Yeah,
Go and join that, because for full transparency though, if you're a patron, then we allow you to submit your copy, and then every other Thursday, sometimes every Thursday, we go through and critique as many of those as we possibly can. I feel like we've managed to get through at least most of them at this point, if not all of them. But I don't want to
Más o menos. We have a little bit
Yeah.
of a backlog that's built up, and so if anybody wants to actually watch our old streams and learn from other people and what we've said to other people, if you go to our youtube.com/copy that channel and click where next to videos where it says live, you can get access to these streams, the recordings of these streams, as well as the recordings of previous streams that we've done for free. They're just there, just sitting there, just waiting for you, just begging you, imploring you, please watch me, let it help. That's what they sound. That's what we do the entire, like, for 3-hour streams. That's how we sound. Now, I want to move on to another piece of advice that I have for people who wish to learn how to practice copy. And this is something that I did, and this is one way to practice copy. There are many ways to practice copy. This is not a prescription. This is just a little piece of advice. All right. So you can, using the go-to Facebook ad library piece of advice that I gave you earlier, and pull up this particular ad for an umbrella. I'm going to shrink my face even more so you can actually read it. Now, I want you in a document to write down, instead of exceptionally strong, durable, and aesthetically beautiful umbrellas, I want you to write bracket, open with 3 benefits or qualities of the product, end bracket, paragraph, paragraph. Then bracket, joking challenge to whatever the product solves vis-a-vis problems, end bracket, bracket, emoji related to that, end bracket. And then paragraph, paragraph, testimonial. And then end bracket, paragraph, bracket, where that testimonial is from, end bracket. And that, my friends, my loves, is how you template an ad. Now, you can write that ad for bone broth. You can write this ad for drones. You can write this ad for a vial of mace that you keep by your bed to protect you from your night terrors. It doesn't matter. Exceptionally strong, long-lasting, powerful mace. Bring it on, night terrors, and then the goblin face. Boom. I just wrote an ad for mace. There you go. And that, start small. Look at this. This is a 3-line ad. Well, hopefully anybody can write a 3-line ad that follows along a template that you sort of like intuited or reverse engineered. Then you could start working on a 5-line ad, then a 20-line ad, then a long form piece of copy, and then a sales letter, and then a script. You can do that. You can template out just by looking at the function, what each sentence does, and then sort of thinking like, okay, what does this do? How do I do that, but for a different product? That is a fairly good way to practice copy. And then anybody have anything they want to add to that?
I also think emails is a really good place to start practicing copy. They're short. They are fairly, you can template them. We have videos about how to write emails. And I think that for the most part, like it gives you enough, like when you're going bowling, you got like the bowling bumpers, like it gives you enough of a bumper setup that you can practice writing, you can practice being persuasive, you can practice a lot of the skills required of copywriting within, with limited variables. You're not trying to do everything, but you are practicing some really valuable skills in emails. So I think that's a great way to practice. It requires you to think about your target, where they are they problem aware? Are they, product aware? Are they, so it forces you to have that type of thinking, to be aware of your market and start writing for your audience. It forces you to, write persuasively. And again, for the most part in emails, you're limiting the action to kind of like clicking right to a landing page and whatnot. So those bumpers are there, and I think it's a great place to get your feet wet.
So we have a couple of related questions. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Rod,
one last
please.
thing.
Rod, sorry, yeah.
I want to highlight and add an element of intention to this conversation, because we get questions about practicing all the time. And usually it's, how do I practice emails? How do I practice this, that, or the other? And I think it's really important for people to understand that an email is a really big thing. An email is composed of many different smaller things. And if you're new, that may not be intuitive, but imagine that you were an artist. The way that artists practice drawing an entire body is not by just drawing 1,000 bodies. They do what are called studies, where they will pick a single part of the body and practice writing that one part over and over and over again until they're really good at that one part. So, one day you might practice hands, the next day you might practice heads or faces or noses or what have you, until you feel comfortable enough where you can start putting those pieces together. When you're really new to copywriting, if you start trying to just write long form sales letters, you're going to mess a lot of different things up. And if the only thing you do is write more and more long form sales letters, you're going to get better at all of it very, very slowly. Mm-hmm. But the amount of return you're going to get on that practice is going to be very low until years on. And so one thing you can do is, when you sit down to practice your copywriting, even if it is an entire email, just write at the top of the page, today I'm going to focus on subject lines. And you could write out the entire email the same way, but just spend like a little bit more time thinking about that subject line or writing out a couple different variations, and then write the rest of your copy towards that subject line. And the next day you can think about, what is my lead into that email going to be? Or what is the salutation going to be? What is the call to action going to be? But just pick out one part to focus on and try to do that part really, really well, and then move on to the rest.
I love that. Anybody who's become proficient in an instrument knows that the best way to learn and to get better and more technically proficient is to break certain things down and to slow it down, to focus on smaller and smaller and smaller components. Like if you're trying to learn a solo, you don't try to learn the whole thing all at once. The part that is sweet picky. You don't try to learn the part that's also like crazy arpeggios, repeated very fast. Like those are all separate skills that need to be cultivated, just as subject lines need to be cultivated separately. Stingers, the opening sentence of something that disrupts and gets people's attention, that's its own skill unto itself. Proving things well is its own skill. Good CTAs is its own skill. All of these things need to be cultivated and practiced. And I'll tell you what, the more copy you study and the more copy you read and the more copy you note down, the more you're going to notice different ways of approaching each one of these things. The same way, if you were trying to learn guitar, you would want to listen to a bunch of different virtuoso guitar players. And you're going to learn something as you listen. And the more you learn, the more you're going to notice in new guitar players that you listen to. The same is true for copy. The more you learn and the more concepts you have in your head as you approach a new piece of copy, the more you're going to get out of what you're studying. Now, let's move on to a very controversial question. that I think is worth talking about, especially when it comes to giving advice to newbies for getting better at copywriting. Hand copying, yeah or nah?
Nah.
Yes, I think. I have opinions on this.
I know.
Do we want to
that's
give
why
a round robin quick?
Sure.
What we all think?
No, just read carefully.
Lindsay, yeah or nah?
I would say yes, to a degree, but like you don't have to go handwrite 8 sales letters. Like do it a little bit because it forces you to think about what you're doing. So I think it's good practice for that, but I don't think that like you have to meet some like magic number before you feel like, okay, you know, like
Yeah.
did
Maybe a
that.
better question: did everyone here handwrite copy? Like, did you guys do it? I did.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
I did, and I
Many
hated
books
it
down
so
there.
much.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, while we're talking about breaking down copy and all of that, I find it more advantageous. What I like to do, I like to outline it. Rather than going like word by word by
Yes.
word, I like to
Mhm.
outline the ideas and think critically about like, okay, what did the writer want to do here? And then like if I almost like reverse engineer it as if I was the writer and then I am creating an outline for this idea. That's how I like to approach it. And that helps me tremendously.
So all right, I'm gonna say something, which is I hand copied for oh god, I would say my first maybe 6 months of learning copywriting. I have about 4 or 5 books, you know, like kind of thick A4 books down there full of handwritten copy. First thing I'd say is kind of what you're saying, Lindsay. I would then annotate it. So there's no good just copying it down. In my opinion, you have to then go back through what you've written and actually like say, this is what I think they were trying to do here. I did that in Red Pen. Here's an observation that I have made. Of everyone I know who's tried to get into copywriting, who has said to me at some point, I want to do copy, I want to become a copywriter. The ones who start by hand copying far outpull those who don't do hand copying. Now, I have a theory for this, which may break the magic of why it works, but I mean, Sean, do you think I should? I think you know what I'm going to say. Should I say what I'm going to say?
Please do.
Okay. People who hand copy basically show their commitment for getting into this world.
Yep.
And that is one of the biggest kind of advantages it has. All right. I'm not even going to try and argue like, oh, it's, you know, it gets it in your brain better or, you know, muscle memory. I don't know if that's true or not. Like, I know there are studies that saying handwriting something does help, but I'm not even going to use that argument. I'm just going to say that if you are prepared to sit down and, as Rod said, frustratingly hand copy something and keep looking up at the screen or print it out and do it next to each other and then go through and annotate it, then you are also far more likely to persist with succeeding. Now, that may be correlation rather than causation, but I do feel like there is a kernel of causation there because it commits you to the life of copywriting and it makes you far more likely to carry through with it. So that is my opinion on hand copying.
Yeah, like whoever does this, like it can be a good test to sort of unearth the trait of persistence in an individual. It's not like, hey, we say this, you go like hand copy now, and you're like, look, I'm committed. But it's more like, you know, if you have been able to be this committed and actually go through that process, you probably can handle the rest of the rest of what it takes to become good. For me personally, my most success with studying copy has just been to buy a drawing tablet and to just annotate PDFs on my computer. Like that works really well for me. So.
And I want to talk about that in a moment. How does one learn from copywriting? How does one annotate to learn from copywriting? But I do want to agree with the point Alex made. Yes, there's an argument to be made. You know, some people learn from handwriting copying in the sense that it forces you to pay attention to things at the language level. That's good. Yes, there is a connection between the motor cortex of the brain as well as the hippocampus and the other parts of the brain that are responsible for connecting your brain to form memories. There is an argument to be made there. But I would say that the most important reason to handwrite a piece of copy is, like Alex said, it shows that you can hang. And that goes right back to how we started the show. It's all about mindset. And it's one of those things where whenever I encounter a person who just balks at the notion of handwriting a piece of copy, oh, my hand would hurt.
It's the same person who expects to get a 6-figure check on their first promo. Like, exactly. Alex, you are spot on in that. And like, I wanted to add on to like what I was saying. It's not about a magic number. Like, it's not about you have to go handwrite 8 sales letters. It's really about, can you slow down enough? Can you force yourself to like study it at such a level that you're capable of like thinking critically about, why did they put this piece here? Like, people aren't attuned to like reading copy like that. It's just like, okay, I'm going to read a bunch, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to read. It's not really about that. It is about like, can you do the tedious practice of like breaking down a sales letter? It's really tedious, and like, we'll show some examples of what it looks like. But I think you're spot on, Alex. It's a great observation.
One thing I'll say, so while I don't like the practice for me, I think that having a practice, building a habit of activity you do around your studying can be really, really helpful. I think if you come from a background where reading closely or reading text closely is a skill set you have, it may not be the most useful use of your time, just because you don't need to force yourself to slow down mechanically in order to read the text in that way. And so coming from like a literature or other kinds of writing background, it just like felt like it slowed down things way too much, and I was already getting the point of it just by reading it the first time anyway. If I think you can accomplish a similar thing by just giving yourself a timer, whether that's 30 minutes, whether that's an hour, setting the timer and saying you're going to read for this long, and either you're going to get through the thing and read as far as you can in that amount of time closely. And by setting the timer, it's not going to be over if you read faster, and so there's no point in rushing. But the other thing is that if it's a short piece of text and you get through it in 30 minutes and you have 30 minutes left, you then have to go back through it, or you have to go back and read other parts of it. And so just, again, that intention piece. What are we sitting down and reading this just so we can get through it? Or are we sitting down with this so we can study it? And there are lots of different ways to accomplish that. Handwriting is one of them. Not everyone is going to benefit as much from that, but there are other ways of accomplishing the same thing, even if you hate handwriting or can't write for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, and just for a practical application of this, I used to spend half an hour writing, like actually doing the hand copying. I used to spend half an hour annotating. And then, I mean, when I first started, I used to spend about 2.5, 3 hours a day, like just doing the kind of learning and reading books and stuff like that. And then if not, once I kind of read a few books, it was then practicing. So that I found that was a pretty good, half an hour writing, half an hour then annotating. It's a good hour a day of theory, if you like, but in a very practical way.
Yeah, I definitely have noticed that some people learn from it more than others. Some people learn from approaching copy in an entirely different way. The only way to learn, if you can learn in a particular way, is to try it. I hand wrote 2 full sales letters over the course of my career over the last 10 years. That was enough. I don't need to do it again. I get more, like Lindsay said, from reverse outlining something, like finding out like the beats, like sectionally, like what's going on here, what's going on here, what's going on here. And then also taking a note of like how they are accomplishing that in that particular section. Like, for example, say I'll make a note about a section of a promo that's like, they are presenting proof about this idea to overcome this objection. Then I'll make another column in my outline and I will say, okay, to actually prove this, what they're doing here is presenting, 3 elements of social proof, 2 examples from history, a partridge in a pear tree, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll just make a note of that, because that will give me a guideline of like, okay, if I need to write a proof section to overcome this sort of objection in a piece of copy that I write in the future, well, I should probably include fairly similar ingredients in the stew of copy that will be my sales letter in the future. And so that is the advice that I would give when it comes to copywriting. Treat it as a rite of passage. And if you learn a lot from it, do it more. If you don't do it anymore. But at least you will have tried it. At least you will have like shown that you have commitment and that you can hang. Because if you can hang, people treat you seriously. And especially in certain facets of this world, like if you have not handwritten sales letters, or if you're the type of person who's just like, handwriting, why would I do that? That's a waste of time. You will immediately be considered a non-serious person in their eyes. And if you want clients, if you want a job, you don't want that. So why don't we move on from that, unless anybody has any more beginner or novice advice for copywriters to grow and to learn and to get better at this. Let's move on to intermediate copy, unless somebody would like to answer some questions or talk about anything else in the meantime. Shall we?
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Intermediate copywriters. How do we define an intermediate copywriter? Here's how I will define it. Somebody who is making enough to live solely off of their copywriting, marketing, consulting, however you want to frame it, that you are earning enough money from this that you do not need a job at Starbucks. You're a paid copywriter. So what are you going to do? How are you going to get better?
I feel like I know I've just spoken, so I won't talk for too long here. I'll just say that this is where I throw it back to what we spoke about earlier, which is this, I think, is where getting critiques from other people who have already proven themselves in the field really help. These typically tend to be juniors who I will take on at this kind of level, where they've already either been writing for a living for a little while, or they've been at another company, or they've been freelancing or whatever. That's when they're like, I want to improve, but I have all these questions, or they don't have all these questions, but they don't know what to ask to improve next. So I think that it will be good to revisit the idea that I know Lindsay brought up earlier on, which was when would they need a mentor?
Okay, so let's start there. At what point does somebody need a mentor?
Oof. I think like if I look back at my past or like sort of like my progress, I think really at the intermediate stage, I benefited from speaking with you, Sean, and just sort of like going through like, because one thing I think many intermediate copywriters experience is what is called the dip. Because like basically at the intermediate stage, you figure out that yes, you can write copy. Yes, you are earning money from your copy, but you are not good enough to be consistently profitable. Like you are just not good enough to retain like clients, at least as a freelancer. You might struggle while having an in-house gig. Like there are so many challenges and there's so much work ahead of you that you just feel like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. How do I deal with this? I'm going to get depressed, right? So like at that point, I think it's very, very important to get some guidance, either from, someone that you're paying, either someone that you know, or either a copy chief in-house, right? Just to have some sort of senior who can like help you out and like get out of that rut, because almost every copywriter I've spoken with has had this at the intermediate level. Just a phase of, oh my God, I want to quit. This is too much for me. And I think at that point, that's like the crucial like inflection or tipping point, whatever you want to call it, where if you get the right guidance, you can get past that dip, you can come out of it, and you can be a lot stronger than you were before.
What do they call that on the motivation curve? The trough of disillusionment.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Wow, it sounds very, very scary.
I think so. Just to put it in like quantifiable terms, I'd say you need a mentor when the amount of money you're making stops going up. So, like, I think a lot of people find themselves in a spot where you have some jobs and then you might be able to get some similar jobs at similar pay scales, but like you're unable to like get the gigs that would pay you more hourly or more per project. Because you're either lacking a specific kind of experience, you're not able to communicate with clients in the way you need to be able to communicate with them. This is certainly the case for me, where you start off freelancing, you get a job, you can scaffold to another job, and so on your own, you don't really need, especially beginning, you don't need a ton of mentorship to kind of keep going up. But there is a point at which you'll hit some sort of plateau, either in terms of what you want to be doing, or you'll find that you just have to put in more hours to get paid more money, which isn't always the best feeling, especially if you have like other responsibilities in your life that aren't work. So I think when you hit that point at which you're like, there's no way for me to like reasonably make more money, at that point, it would be useful to reach out to someone who has more experience or just knows your niche better to kind of get their insight in terms of like, things you can change, even if that's not necessarily like your copywriting skills.
Did you want to add on to that, Sean? Because I was going to take it in a slightly different direction.
I was just going to add on to that an observation that I've articulated before on my personal finance channel that I have, DIY Wealth, which is, I'm plugging that too. No, there's only two ways to make more money in life, period. Like it doesn't matter whether you're a ditch digger or a copywriter. You'd either work more hours or you can get paid more per hour. That's it. Those are the only two ways to make more money. Now, you have a finite number of hours in your day to write copy. So the only way you're going to get paid more is by charging more. There is going to be a point where you up your rates so much that you stop getting hired as much. And so once you find that equilibrium point of working the number of hours that you want to work and getting paid what you are capable of without losing any prospective clients, if you're just hovering around there and nothing you do is breaking you past that level, well, then it's time to start looking for ways to level up. That could be by finding a mentor. I read, I did the Mark Ford thing where I read the 2 books and I read a bunch of copy. And it was only once I was writing copy pretty consistently that I actually started reading more books. There was a point where I was tasked with writing webinar copy. So I got one to many. I read that and I learned a ton from it. And it was only after I was established that I started looking further afield for things that would help me grow as a writer, because that was finally at the point where I was like, okay, I have a toehold in this. I know how to learn. I know how to get better. And that is when it becomes valuable to start looking at other books, start getting information from other people, maybe even getting a course. Who knows? So
I'm going to share an observation that I've made specifically recently with 2 juniors I have, one of whom I know is watching. So yeah, I'm talking about you. And I hit this wall as well at the intermediate level, which is overthinking. I think that when you begin, obviously there's a hell of a lot coming at you. So you can get overwhelmed, but I think you're focusing on the basics. And your acceleration for learning it's so fast. It's like, oh my God, I didn't know any of this. And now it feels like all these secrets have been revealed. Stages of awareness, hooks, DIC, what emails are doing, conversion rate optimization tips on pages, just all this stuff you've never even thought about before. When you get to a stage where you're kind of used to all that, you get to a point, I think, where those things, because you've heard of all of them now, you start to overthink on oh, am I doing this right? Oh, actually, should I use this instead? Oh, I don't know. And you get into this, and I won't name the person who's watching, but because we spoke about this just last week, you will get to a point where you are suddenly editing every single thing you write as you write it, because you're like, oh God, should I change the sentence structure? Or maybe I should use a different word. Oh, I'm not sure. Does this sound right? Is this what I was going for? Overthinking, I think, is the enemy of intermediate copywriters, because I certainly was doing that for a good kind of year. And it was only about a year ago, around this time, maybe a year and a half ago, where I actually kind of, looking back on it, I know I started to get over that. And now I can take it back to basics subconsciously and be like, oh, well, this is what I'd write. If someone asks me a question, I go, yeah, we're going to write this. We're going to send this campaign out then. We're going to do this, because I'm not overthinking. The minute you start to overthink, you then are fighting yourself on all these different points. And I think that that's one of the most important things a mentor can help you with, is sometimes you just need someone there. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, to say to you, kill your baby, right? Plan it to begin with. What are you trying to say and who are you trying to say it to and what you're trying to get them to do? Write that down. Okay, get rid of this other stuff you did. Now, what here you've already written is fluff. What would you delete immediately? And then keep that in mind for next time when you write your next thing. Oh yeah, that doesn't actually make sense because it's not moving the reader towards action, or it's not supporting my argument, or it's just words for the sake of words. Being able to kill fluff is a direct consequence of not overthinking. Because when you overthink, I think you're editing so long and you put so much on the page that you can't actually, see the wood for the trees kind of thing.
And Alex, this overthinking happens because up until this point, you're so used to like learning and like leaps and bounds because it's like such unfamiliar terrain. Things are coming at you and like it's easy to feel productive in that environment. But then like Sean said, once you get a toehold, you're like, okay, like, I'm at this intermediate stage. And then it's like all of a sudden you're still wanting to continue that pace, but you like don't know where to put that nervous energy, right? And so where do you put it? You just put it into all of a sudden like into your writing, right? And overthinking your writing. And that's why that happens. Is that what you'd say?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'd say that, and that is in terms of like improving copy, I think that is the biggest blocking point I see for intermediates at that level.
That's a good,
overthinking,
great observation.
which is slightly different from what Rob was saying, because obviously we're focusing more on the monetary aspect. But this is more of just the improving your own copy. That is a massive thing I see with people who reach that stage.
Yeah, I would like to take the conversation in a different direction now, because getting over that particular hump, the dip, I experienced it too. I experienced it bad. I experienced it worse than you ever will. You have no idea. But I got over it and I pushed through and I got better. Same thing with overthinking it. There was a point where I was rewriting the lead for a sales letter. Oh gosh, I must have rewritten this lead at least 17 times. And I don't mean going back and editing a sentence. I mean like from blank page, I rewrote this lead 17 times. And as time progressed, you push through, but you can only, again, it's like a Nine Inch Nails song. The way out is through. And so you have to throw yourself into it a little bit and not get caught up. And it depends on how long it lasts. But again, other books help, mentors help, groups help, communities help. Having people that are going through it with you, all these things can help. The other thing that I would like to advise people to do is to start changing up the way that you actually annotate and learn from copy. And the reason why has to do with what Lindsay said, which is when you're a beginner, you're learning by leaps and bounds. It's like weightlifting. Newbie gains are real. Like if you are an inexperienced lifter, if you've never lifted a weight in your life and you go into the gym and you do it consistently, 3 to 6 months, you are going to notice a dramatic change in your body composition. You are going to be like, oh my God, I am hot. Whoa. And then all of a sudden the newbie gains go away and diminishing returns set in. And you're like, oh, well, the same stimulus doesn't cause the same results. And so you have to find other ways to generate additional stimulus. This becomes even harder once you get into the advanced stages. And so once you get into that intermediate stage, you have to sort of like switch up your routine a little bit, because, lifting the same weight for the same number of reps and the same number of sets, it ain't going to cut it no more. You're going to have to find a way to make things a little bit harder or notice different things. Same is true for copy. Now, I want to show you, because I have my, quote unquote famous or perhaps infamous video where I break down how I originally was breaking down sales letters. And I walk through everything that I was looking for. Now, when I break down sales letters, now when I do annotations for sales letters, I'm way lighter in terms of what I'm noting down. I'm often trying to note down things that are unique, things that I notice that I haven't seen before. I want to show you an example of what I'm talking about. This is a sales letter for a weight loss program / supplement, whatever. And at this particular point, of my career, I already knew what price anchoring was. Price anchoring is a process by which you introduce one big thing, a price that is large, or you put into the prospect's head the notion that something is very expensive, but then you actually reveal that it's less expensive. And through the principle of contrast, you see, oh, big thing that scared me, oh, it's not so bad. And that is real. We even did a whole bit about it. Thank you, Rod and Alex. That was delightful. And that is important. Now, that's price anchoring, and you can do a price drop that way. And you always start with the biggest thing, and you go slightly smaller, and then you go slightly smaller until you reach the smallest. And that is how you do price anchoring. Now, you can also do price anchoring, or anchoring as it's called, in different ways. Like, for example, a business has a guarantee, and a warranty lasts for a month. 1 month, try it, get your money back, that kind of thing in an offer. Well, another way to price anchor is you can say in your copy, normally we only offer a money back guarantee for 1 month. Well, with this special offer, this limited time special offer, you actually get a full year to try it. You anchored a thing that people want and then made it even bigger to make it feel even more risk-free. That's another way to do anchoring. And Joe Schriefer was the first person that I know that noticed that. And it was very common in like health and fitness and coaching sales letters. And we brought it over to financial, and it worked like gangbusters. And so anchoring works really, really well. Now, until I read the sales letter, I had never seen anchoring used to overcome objections before. Look at this. Cortisol is the real enemy of my metabolism. It's why metabolism was so slow. It's why my metabolism was so slow, and why I couldn't lose weight no matter what I tried or how hard I worked at it. So I had to ask, how do I flip the fat burning reset switch, Jonathan? Jonathan. I have to admit, I held my breath waiting for his answer. Getting rid of all that cortisol I'd produce over a lifetime would be difficult. We're anchoring now. It would take a lot of time and effort, more anchoring, before I'd see any fat melt away. I was waiting for him to say I needed to take antidepressants or tranquilizers, again, more anchoring, to manage the daily stresses of my life, or spend hours a day in meditation, again, more anchoring. But Jonathan's remedy was much easier than I ever imagined, and boom, we have payoff. We've anchored over the course of proof that the objection that people normally have is that something is going to be hard, difficult, time-consuming, require medications. But the big reveal, the point of contrast here, is that the remedy is actually easier. Now, I don't care how you feel about this copy or this kind of offer. I think it's a little skeezy, but I can learn from it. And I even wrote in my annotations here, ooh, we're anchoring the effort. I haven't seen that before done in this way. New trick for Sean. I literally wrote that for myself. And you can write stupidly for yourself as well, because nobody is going to see your annotations. Maybe I shouldn't have shared this. That is neither here nor there. The point is, I noticed something based on a concept that I already knew. And I saw a new thing doing it in a different way. And I learned from that. And now that's part of my toolkit. I've just absorbed something, like the Highlander cutting off somebody's head, or how should I say, Super Saiyan getting very physically harmed and then bouncing back and becoming stronger. I have absorbed something, and my power level has increased. I might be too much of a nerd, but that is how I learn from copy now. And I go and I look for the things that I don't know, or I go and look for the things that I do know, but which take things in a different or new direction. When you're first starting out, your annotations are going to be all over the place. They're going to be like, okay, this is the intro section. This is the credibility section, etc., etc. As you get more advanced, your annotations are going to be more pointed, and they're going to be more focused. And so that is something that I would recommend for intermediates when it comes to actually learning from copy. Now, let's see. Anybody have anything they want to add to that, or anything that they want to add to this, how to learn from copywriting?
I was gonna like I think you brought up a really good point, because like we sort of talked about like how we annotate copy and like how we learn from it. But I think lots of beginners will be like, oh my God, that sounds really complicated. It can literally be as simple as like, oh, hey, they're putting some pressure on me while I'm reading this. This is urgency, right? Or, oh, they just said that they only have 100 of these items, so they're using scarcity. Like, one of the things that that will really benefit you as you're annotating copy would be to take the information that you learn either from like watching videos on copy that, reading books, things like that, and trying to like spot, when and where you notice it in the copy that you're reading, right? So take the theory, see if you can see it in practice in the copy that you read. And then the next time you're going to write copy yourself, you can then use those same tactics, and like the same way that like other copywriters use that tactic to write it down, or use that principle to write a bit of copy, you can do the same thing, right? And that's sort of how you learn from theory to reading copy to writing copy. So thought I'd just bring that up real quick.
Yeah, I mean, and we've spoken about the theory of cross-pollination before as well. The idea, and it's basically a term that I kind of give to one of the things Sean is describing there of around, you see something in a different field or from a different company, and then you start doing it. Typically from a completely different industry. No one in your industry, no one in your niche has done it before, but you see something else do it. So it's like, hey, I'm gonna mold this to my industry and see if I can make it work. I was also going to give another example, Sean, for ingesting things and making them part of you, but I didn't want to add to the geekery, so I thought I'd shut up.
Please do. We do have to close the show here in the next 10 minutes, so give us a little taste of geekery, and then we will move on to advice for seniors.
I was just going to say that Astartes can eat the brains of genetic material and learn what they know as well.
That's pretty
I know
cool.
you like Warhammer. So. Yeah, I thought so.
Wow.
But it's not. It's something not many people know. They can also spit acid. But anyway, back to copy. Warhammer stream another time. We'll do a 40k stream another time.
We'll do an entire copy that stream entirely about 40k lore. So
That's
can't wait for that.
No, we'll just play Total War Warhammer. I think that could be cool. But that's not the 40k one. Shame.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Dawn of War. Anyway, okay, all right. Back. All right. Focus. We're professionals.
So before we move on, does anybody have any additional advice that they would give to intermediate copywriters?
Yeah, I do. I think at the point which you're an intermediate, you're making it. Like, you are providing for yourself, you're paying rent, you're doing all the things you need to do to be functioning. And so there are lots of different directions to go from there. And I think it's at this point that you should start thinking about what are your larger goals, both professionally and in life. We definitely have a tendency, or this industry definitely has a tendency to tell people to keep pushing to make, 6 figures, $bazillion dollars, passive income, whatever. But that doesn't have to be the goal you strive towards. And so as you notice yourself getting more comfortable and having more success, do take some time to stop and think about what you actually want from life, because what everyone else is doing does not have to be what you're doing.
Absolutely true. Now, we are not going to devote a whole lot of time to this because our audience is definitely probably lacking in terms of senior copywriters. Most senior copywriters are not watching free information on YouTube. They are going to masterminds, or they're getting invited to speak at masterminds. They are learning from people by calling them. Now, there's a lot that goes along with this, and I've encountered some senior copywriters who struggle because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, they don't approach copy with a beginner's mind anymore. They don't just become competent and confident, they become a little arrogant, and they effectively sort of cut themselves off from learning. And the last piece of advice that I want to give today, and this is particularly directed at senior copywriters, is to do effectively what Alex said. If cross-pollination, looking farther afield into things that are not happening in your niche or things that you've not noticed before, if it was important for intermediates, it is even more important for senior copywriters. And I'll give specific examples. Some of the most breakthrough financial copywriting ideas came from a dude sitting in the bed with his wife and watching Street Magic on YouTube. And the thought goes, oh, how can I take that but create something that would sell a financial newsletter? Or here's even another example. Somebody was watching like some sort of game show, and that inspired them. You could be watching a movie and you'll get ideas. The thing that I see seniors struggle with is they get to a point where they sort of harden their hearts and shut themselves off from learning. And that is how a career dies. That is the point where your career, it ain't going anywhere anymore.
I also think that it's like in the last several years, all the best copywriters that I've seen, they've either burnt out or they have fallen out of favor because they got so big so fast that all of a sudden their demands skyrocketed and then people stopped wanting to work with them. I think remembering that like when you get on a wave, like it's great, you can make a lot of money, but it's not always going to be that way. The market will shift. The client will mismanage the profits and all of a sudden they can't afford you anymore. So like that ties into that like beginner mindset thing. Just always remember that like the good times, they're great when they happen, but they will not last forever. You will fall out of favor. You will not always be the favorite. And you should definitely take advantage of the good times when they're here, but not to the extent that you lose longevity. Don't forget you have a life. Hopefully you have a family, people who care about you, friends, hobbies, your health. Because this career, it's easy to go really hard, especially when you're making a lot of money. And before you know it, you look up from the computer and years have passed by and you've stopped living your life and you don't want to do the job anymore. That's happened to a lot of senior copywriters that I know. So that would be my advice.
I have a bit that I think also applies to maybe later stage intermediates, which would be to start learning complementary skills, like a really good way for, like once you sort of like, once you're pretty decent at writing copy, you know how to like write across the entire funnel, like you've got some nice results, like it can be very, very lucrative for you to start learning other stuff. For example, you can think about, offer development. How do you make offers? Like, how do you think of new products or services that you could sell? You could learn things like media buying. You could learn things like design. You could maybe even learn a technical skill that maybe you learn how to build some sort of product that you then sell through copywriting. I think as an intermediate and as a senior, that can be a great way to learn both something new, make more money, maybe even force yourself to have that beginner mind a little bit again, because learning new stuff makes you a beginner, right? And like I've noticed and like I've leveraged that myself a lot, that when I really consider myself as an intermediate copywriter, that I was able to just earn a lot more by being a generalist as well, being able to do my marketing, being able to do my media buying, being able to do like data analytics, like all this just really, really helped me like secure bigger gigs than I would if I only did copywriting. And like also it's fun to make your own stuff. Like you either use those complementary skills to get better gigs or start doing your own thing. It's really fun to run your own show.
I would definitely like to amplify that for the people sitting in the back. If you are working in-house at an agency and you are doing the same thing every day and you're not seeing very many opportunities for growth, start your own thing. Start a blog, start a newsletter, start an email list. Learn those complementary skills and learn them on your own. Work a 9 to 5 and then work a 5 to 9, because the skills that you learn doing your own thing are not only going to improve you during your 9 to 5, but your 5 to 9 could actually generate enough revenue that it entirely replaces your full-time work. So that is advice that I would give, which is for freelance, you can learn skills at any point. But if you're working a 9 to 5 job, definitely carve out some time in your life to learn those complementary skills, because it will improve every facet of your career.
Yeah, I'll highlight a couple of questions here because I know we've got to go in a few minutes.
Yeah, let's rapid fire questions to close out.
Yeah. Just this one because I saw it and I can answer it quickly. Yes, 100%. That's exactly what I did. I sell my own e-commerce products. I've consulted and written copy for dozens of e-commerce clients. So 100%. Sean?
Alex, really quick, speak as though people are going to be listening to this in a non-video format, because we're doing that now. If you go to Spotify or if you go to Apple Music, you can find Copy That we're putting these episodes out via podcast now, and
Yeah,
you can
Legal
listen to
Terror
it.
just asked that.
So
Is the
cool,
plan to make
actually.
all YouTube streams audio podcasts as well?
Not
Yep.
all of them.
Yeah.
Some of them
Come
are
on.
definitely like specific to YouTube. Like, for example, the really awesome one that Noah put together. Noah, you're awesome. Last Thursday, that video whips ass, and I highly recommend everybody check it out. It's called 8 High Converting Persuasion Hacks or something like that. But these long streams we're going to be releasing as podcast episodes, and definitely recommend checking those out. We will eventually have a banner where we can actually link to that stuff. We didn't come prepared. We didn't do our homework. But Alex, please take it away.
So Digital Success System asks, can one mix copywriting with selling e-commerce products? Yes, definitely. I mean, you can mix copywriting with anything, first of all. It's not just blocked to kind of specific niches, but yeah, I have direct experience in this, both consulting for clients who do e-commerce, but also setting up my own businesses and selling e-commerce products. I'm not going to drop a surprise yet. I'm going to open a loop for a future episode that you guys have to keep watching for things. But I have some exciting news coming up pretty soon about e-commerce. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Other questions?
That is pretty exciting.
That is exciting. I don't even know what the news is. So like,
I haven't told
like,
any of you.
My
guys
nipples
yet.
are so hard right now. I
Yes.
want to.
Like, we don't even know what's going on.
Well, my mouth is sealed soon. Maybe off the show.
Lovely.
All
How about this? I've been ignoring a number of questions in chat that are not related to that central question of how can people improve their writing? And there are a few questions that we can circle back to. So why don't we do this? I know a couple of us have a hard stop at 5 o'clock Eastern time. So why don't we say so long, farewell, and I love you to them, and also have one last plug, and then we'll hang around for another 15 to 20 minutes and answer a few questions.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
So how about this? Luke and Lindsay, since you guys have a hard stop, would you like to do the plug?
Yeah, Lindsay, where can I find like resources about copywriting, like, you know, like maybe reports or special guides, or maybe even like, you know, like exclusive material that you wouldn't be able to get on YouTube?
Yeah,
Is there a way that I can get that from Copy That?
I don't know. There is an entire website. It is copythatshow.com. Someone will generously put it up on the bottom of the screen. Head there. You can find best books to read library. You can find all of our guides. If you sign up to our email list, we will literally tell you for the next 21 days, step by step, exactly what to do to get started as a beginner copywriter. Even if you're not a beginner copywriter, I sincerely recommend that you check it out, because it's literally like all of the best stuff that, according to us, that we think we put out, packed in the first 21 days. We're going to be, you know, constantly improving that. So I highly recommend that you go there. We'll also notify you. Once you're on our list, we'll tell you exactly, you know, as soon as we have something new that's out. So go over there, copythatshow.com, check it out. I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in and listening. This is such a fun community to be a part of. And if you really like the sense of community and are looking for more hand-holding, definitely check out our Patreon, because that's where you get it. I think of the Patreon as like literally the Copy That community. We are chatting all day long with the people in there. There's tons of people asking questions, sharing critiques, talking about their wins. If you become a member, you get the opportunity to submit your actual copy, and we will critique it for everybody. And so that's an awesome feature. There's a ton of other perks there, so highly recommend you check that out as well. Our Patreon, patreon.com/thecopythatshow. Be sure to check it out. I think that's enough.
Yeah,
plug-in
it really
for me.
supports it really supports the show.
Yes.
And it's a great way to, you know, get into the community and speak with other people who are really committed to learning copywriting. Rod,
Guys,
take the floor.
I have a question. If I'm someone who, you know, is interested in Patreon but doesn't know if I want to make the commitment yet, is there like a free, lighter version of that community that I could maybe join that's readily available and like full of life and joy?
I I can't tell if you're talking about the sample platter I put up on YouTube or the free Discord
Yes.
that is available if they click on in the description below.
Click the doodly-doo. We
Okay.
also have a free Discord server that we've alluded to several times during the stream.
Yes.
It is fantastic. I feel like we probably have a couple hundred people in there now, and we also talk to people who don't subscribe to our Patreon. And, you know, while we won't critique your stuff, it's a lot of fun, and there's a great sense of community, and people are always helping each other. And so if you really like the vibe of what we have going on, like right here, you should join down there, like right now. It's great.
Alex.
We
I just
so
say
you guys
quick-
know, we almost have 2,000 members.
We have over 2,000. I literally just looked.
Yeah.
We got 2012 people.
500.
Oh, wow.
I checked
Okay.
this morning. It was like 1,950. So damn, wow.
Gee, 2,000. We have over 2,000. Where did that happen?
Yeah.
Okay, can you guys help us
God.
get to 2,000 if you're not already in there? Like,
Yeah.
let us-
We're over 2,000 now. We're on 2012.
We should do a celebration stream for that. I don't know,
We
at
should.
like certain milestones.
I didn't know it was that big. I thought we were like, oh, like 3, 4.
Yeah.
Rod. Okay, anyway. Yeah. Damn.
Hold on. What's the
Cool.
next Fibonacci number above?
Oh,
You
man.
beat it yourself.
Sean and his math. Yeah.
And-
Listen, Coffee's asking, will there be another discount for the course? If you're looking for discounts, join the Patreon.
Oh yeah. Anybody who missed out on the discount for the CCA, the Copy Career Accelerator that we released in February, we had a limited time offer where we sold it for very cheap. And we sold it even cheaper for Patreon subscribers. The Patreon is $20 per month. And we figured, why don't we just knock another $20 off the cost of this, since it's a distillation of like new stuff plus some stuff from the Patreon. And so that discount is still there. It's more expensive than during the campaign. But if you join the Patreon, there is a whole separate landing page just for you with a lower price than anybody else has to pay. And so if you want to be better than anybody else and you want to laugh in their faces and like spit on them and like step over their like husks in the sidewalk as you go strolling through the streets in your gilded carriage, then join the Patreon.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
So-
I gotta get.
Yeah.
Thank
Lindsay,
you.
Right.
always
Bye,
a
guys.
pleasure. Luke,
See you.
always
See
a
you guys.
pleasure.
I also
Pleasure.
See you, Lindsay.
Bye.
See you, Luke. Have a lovely
Bye.
night.
You too.
Bye.
But yeah, for Coffee, there's not. Is there going to be? Oh, Rod. Okay, I guess. I guess 2 left. I didn't know he was going as well. Sean,
Yeah,
it's you
I
and me.
It's just you and I yet again. How can you bear
Um,
it?
I was actually going to talk to you about that off the show, but so I'm not going to get into that right now.
Fair.
um,
Fair. I smell pretty bad. I'm sorry.
But yeah, it is. I saw the pit stank earlier. Look at
It's
that.
how I assert dominance. Really, it's
That's
I get
a
in
working
there.
man's pits.
Exactly.
I don't mean a coal mine. I mean,
I didn't even put on antiperspirant today.
oh, Sean, come on, man, that's too far. No, and you just said that to 45 people live and hundreds, if not thousands, after the fact.
You know what? I figure if 45 people made it this far, they're going to be pretty forgiving of the stupid stuff that comes out of my mouth. So
That's fair. But Coffee, just to round up that, is there going to be another discount for the course? Never that good is the
Yeah.
thing that I will say. Like that, we genuinely did have to put the price up on that to make it profitable, because
Yeah.
there was a lot of work went into that. So we couldn't keep it at that price. But there may be certain discounts in the future, and as everyone said, if you join the Patreon, you do get $20 off of it, plus all of the other Patreon stuff, which is, God, I don't know, hundreds of hours worth of videos.
more than you can actually view or get over in a month, which
Yeah.
maybe that's part of our marketing plan. Who knows?
Maybe value. Maybe someone read Brian Kurtz's Over Deliver and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna do that."
Perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions.
Yeah, so we are going to answer some questions. So if you have any new questions, they could be related to the topic of the stream, which is how does one get better at copywriting in 2023 or perhaps 2024, depending on when people are watching. But also we will answer any other questions that you have. So why don't we start with one that we just got? Is there any client acquisition strategy for LinkedIn? The answer to that, of course, is yes. there are
Cool.
many. Alex, do you have one that you would recommend?
One that our good friend Jonathan, good friend of the show, when we had an agency together and we used to work together, there was one that he used to employ to relative success. It was actually, I believe, inspired by a company called Traffic and Funnels, which I know is kind of giving a plug to probably a competitor, but and
TNT
it
is pretty good.
was I like their stuff. It was basically this idea of a mixture of organic authority mixed with direct outreach, which sounds kind of simple. The basic idea was that whatever you were targeting, LinkedIn, you need to be in a niche. Like you kind of need to be in a niche, because if you're saying to someone, hey, like I've marketed loads of pickup trucks before, and they look at your profile and you've been a waiter for 3 years, they're going to be like, okay, whatever. So it's good to base your whole profile around that one area you want to go into, whether that be, say, a specific, it can be like a software. So you can say you're a HubSpot specialist. And if you know a company's recently got HubSpot, great, like maybe you're going to be relevant. But it can also be an industry, which is kind of typical niches. With those, you need to build your profile around it. So have all of your bios all saying that you're focused on that stuff. Create posts, create scrolling posts, so like carousel posts. Those work great on LinkedIn and Instagram, by the way. Create those and base them around topics within that niche. Make sure that people can see, oh wow, you are actually an expert in this. Be posting social proof, but mix that with a direct outreach method. Now we used a auto responder on LinkedIn, so it's actually like automated messages that will just scrape lists of people and then send them messages automatically. Now, a lot of people frown on that, and fair enough. I do to a degree, but the way that we set it out was very, very different to how most people do that. Most people do LinkedIn outreach, like they will do automated outreach, and it will be 6 paragraphs long. It will be like, hey, I can help you with this and do all this stuff, and here are some results. And it would be a massive, massive message that everyone just ignores immediately. Our one was basically just like, oh, hey, I saw you in this group, or I saw you like this thing. Would you mind if we had a quick conversation? Really, really simple, like message. We would find basically 60-70% of people would reply to that. And from there, that's where you can go into a manual conversation with them. So yeah, you can certainly use LinkedIn for outreach. I would say just make sure your profile is backing it up and you have enough organic content there, and you are doing the opposite of what everyone else is doing. So just do short messages and just ask them how they are, ask them if you can have a discussion, and then take it manually from there. There are probably 50 other LinkedIn acquisition outreach strategies I could talk about, but that one was the one that worked for us.
Yeah, I don't have any advice for LinkedIn outreach. I treat LinkedIn the way that I treat my Facebook, which is how I treat the internet, which is the internet was made for jokes, and anybody who takes themselves seriously does not deserve to have the internet.
Agreed.
Is he joking? Who knows? But I will say that Alex's answer was actually a good answer to another previous question that we had before, which is creating content that creates authority for myself a good strategy when it comes to LinkedIn and other client outreach issues? And what Alex basically just said was that there's a sort of like web that you need to create, a sort of things pointing to other things that show that you are competent, confident, capable of writing in a different number of different fields and milieus and genres and things like that. And LinkedIn is a good place for that, because you can create long form posts, you can create blogs, you can create posts that link to your blogs. You can do a number of different things that sort of, how should I say, show off what you're capable of. And if you're trying to get hired as a copywriter by an agency or by a client or a prospect or what have you, you want them, when you message them, to be able to click your profile and instantly, nearly instantly, see that you've written stuff. And if you're trying to get hired to write, you want the stuff that you've written to show off what you're capable of. And LinkedIn is a pretty useful way to do that. Some people have Medium blogs. Some people have their own website. None of that is necessary. I never did any of that stuff. I mostly get on there and make fun of it all. But and also, like, as my job title, rather than like, consultant, copywriter, specialist, what have you. I have arsonist, because when I have done consulting, my tendency is to do things that break apart and burn down processes that have been there for a long time. I do not recommend that you start off that way. I recommend you take things a little bit more seriously if you want to be taken seriously. But I don't take LinkedIn seriously, and so I refuse to actually do things seriously there. So,
yeah, agree with that. I think that was it. You can also just search LinkedIn acquisition strategy. We have plenty of videos on client acquisition as well. So go and check those out on YouTube.
Yeah. Where can people find videos on client acquisition, Alex?
People can find them at youtube.com/copydat. They can also find them at copydatshow.com. And they can find very in-depth specific ones at patreon.com/thecopydatshow. So that's 3 CTAs, which is dividing attention and focus and probably upsetting and overwhelming people. But hey ho, you got to deal with that.
So I'll be honest with you. Before we answer another question, I actually want to reveal I would like to do either an advertorial or a sales letter lead for one of our products. And I want the headline to be this: why Copy That uses bad copy to sell copy.
I think it's good. I would like to test that, certainly. So let's do it.
You know what? At the very least, it would be fun because there's a lot of different directions that you could take that. Let's see. Oh, after you? Before I move on, it sounded like
No, nothing.
Okay.
Just huffing a general sense of disapproval with this whole thing.
Got it.
Anyways,
one thing that's attractive on a podcast, it's mouth breathing, which I will admit to. You know, there you go.
Oh yeah, podcast. I'm gonna have to get used to that. I'm gonna go. Hi guys, welcome back to Copy That Nights. I don't know if that sounds better or worse.
Oh, it sounds great. It is a perfect ASMR version of Copy That, and so let's do an ASMR answer to this question.
Okay, so Enio Danushi asks, what are some more specific email writing tips other than reading lots of emails?
Oh, well, I would say one of them is definitely noticing the differences between the kinds of emails that you get and creating swipe files for each of those different kinds.
I can't, because I'm going to laugh into the mic, and that's going to really hurt. I would also say... God, okay, no, we've hit the... Oh, no, it's happened again.
You can do this, Alex.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay.
You're perfectly capable of this. I believe in you.
I think one of... Okay, I've just gone sexy now. Like, it's not even ASMR. It's just sex. Okay, right.
That's what also suggest.
That's very true. I would also suggest that one of the best things you can do writing an email is decide what you're trying to do. What are they leading towards? That is one of the biggest mistakes I see people make with emails. They just treat them as a piece of copy. But instead, you need to think about, where is this leading? And that is going to guide how you write the email. For example, if you're just trying to get a quick click, you can use the DIC method, DIC, which we have spoken about many times before. Maybe Sean would like to briefly explain again what that is.
The DIC, or DIC method, which you can find more information about on youtube.com/copythat in many of our videos about the topic, and also in videos we've made for patreon.com/thecopythatshow. Well, if you want to learn how to wield the DIC in your emails, it just involves learning how to disrupt so that you get somebody's attention. Now, that can be with a very interesting or compelling story. It can be with an alluring discount. It can be with an image of a product that you are trying to sell. There are a lot of ways to put the D in DIC. And then what you want to do, you want to intrigue them. You want to add a little spice that draws and allures and entices, but doesn't give away too much, because if your email is just trying to get the click, well, you might as well leave the selling for the sales page and leave the intrigue, if you want to go there, the clickbaiting, for the email. And then finally, If you want to put the C in Dick, you want to ask for the click.
Yeah. Okay. God. I hope that helped, Enyo.
Yeah, hopefully that very sexy description of email tips. One other email tip that I could offer you is, subject lines and open rates. They're mattering less and less because open rate statistics are becoming less and less reliable. That has to do with a number of changes that email service providers are making. And so if you're trying to learn to write better emails, don't base any of your decision making off of the open rates that you're getting. And that's especially true if you're doing cold email outreach. A number of people I know have software that tracks whether somebody opens their email in a particular location. You can't trust it anymore because email service providers are using proxy servers. The only stat that matters at this point is the click. If you can get a click, you have information about whether your copy was good enough to justify the click. And that's really what you're doing in most emails. Some emails are there to inform, some are there to delight, some are like a blog post, but an email form. Some are sales related, some are marketing related, some are just there to welcome people and tell them to whitelist stuff. There are a variety of emails, and you can learn different things from just reading more and more of them, which I guess is violating the question because that is a tip related to reading a lot of emails. Fuck, I fucked up.
That is. I totally forgot about the last bit. But yeah, I'd also just say make what you want someone to do obvious in an email. Like make it so obvious because people interact very differently with email. This is something I have noticed just in myself and observing other people, especially on the bus, which I've spoken about, I think, in previous episodes. Like people interact very differently with emails compared to every other kind of copy or advertising they're exposed to. Most people, there's a famous saying from like the old days of direct mail, where they say people organize their mail over the trash can, right? Like they're trying to throw away as much as they possibly can. People behave the exact same way with emails. Like swipe to delete is kind of second nature to everyone now, or like hitting that delete button quickly. Even when people read emails, like they're just looking for an excuse to press the back button, especially since back buttons on phones have been moved from like the top left to the bottom right, that you can just kind of easily go back. People are trying to delete it as quick as they can. And even if they're interested in the topic, you need to give them a very, very easy, big button with a big arrow going, hey, click here, do this thing below, and make it so obvious what you want them to do. So then they do it then. It sounds so stupid, but consistently in my own tests across multiple industries and multiple businesses, one of the things that really sways how many people click, one is how obvious, and being a bit ambivalent here about what obvious means, but like just in my own perception, how obvious a CTA and a button is. And also often, is it visible in the hero section? Is it visible as soon as someone comes on to a email? Above the fold is also what that's known as. Those two things are massive drivers of are people going to click or not. That's not going to be true for every single kind of email, because of course some you need to actually persuade people a little bit more before you ask for the click. But certainly making it obvious and easy is a big thing for email writing. Big tip that I would throw your way.
Those are all good, and I think more than enough for this person to get started at improving their email.
Yes.
So Jobabo asks, to follow on from the LinkedIn question, are linked DMs written differently to a cold email?
It's up to you. Depends how you write cold emails. There's no, again, like I say, we don't want to say there's a specific way to do anything. I think the only thing I'd say for LinkedIn, there's two kinds of LinkedIn messages. There's a regular LinkedIn message, and there is LinkedIn InMail. InMail sends an email to them as well, so you have a subject line for that. But regular LinkedIn messages don't have a subject line; they're just a message. So something I recommend doing, and I've done this before when I've outreached on LinkedIn, is not wasting the top of your message with "Hi, Sean." Like they fucking know you're messaging them, you know. Like I don't care about that. Give me something that's going to interrupt my day. So when I get that notification down, it's the first thing I see. Like, oh, what is this about? Reference something that I have liked recently or that I've posted about. You know, if you're doing kind of targeted outreach.
Another important thing to keep in mind about the difference between email and messages either on Facebook or LinkedIn is, what is the first thing that you see when you open an email? It's the top of the email. But where do messages in these apps populate? From the bottom. So oftentimes the first thing that you see when you open a message in Facebook or LinkedIn is the bottom of the message. So if you have a fancy disruption or attention getting thing, you have to be mindful of the fact that it's probably not going to be visible when somebody first opens the message. They're going to see where you end, not where you begin. And so that's an important thing to keep in mind, just in terms of how one interacts with this platform differently from email. So I hope that answered that question. Hopefully.
I think it did.
Kofi asks, do you need to research for email copy? And the answer to that is yes.
Yep.
Moving on. No, okay. Here's a slightly more robust answer. You don't have to learn how to code Python to write an email, even if you're selling a Python coding academy course. But if you just got hired to write emails for a business, it might be worth your time to look at what emails have worked for that business in the past. That is also research. It might be worth looking at how that brand speaks to people on its list. It might be worth researching what this company's offers are and what their copy looks like and what their brand messaging is and what their voice is. That all counts as research. That's all stuff that you need to have in your brain before you start writing. Get 90% off this thing. I don't know, this leather whip that you can use purely for non-sexual purposes. Make sure to emphasize in the email copy that this whip that is meant for human flesh is not meant for sex.
Which would also be human flesh.
Exactly. But
I guess
it's important in the email to mention that the whip is not for sex.
It's for quartermasters on ships, guys. Come on.
I actually think that email would probably work well. Well, subject line: this whip is not for sex.
If you sent to a sex toy list, do not use. If the subject line you sent for sex toy list was "do not use this for sex," that would get so many opens. I bet you.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Next.
Cultured asks, what are some newbie-friendly offers versus intermediate offers, i.e., that is, offering landing page copy, email copy, or the method in no man's niche?
Oh, I wouldn't necessarily frame it in that way.
Yeah, weird way to frame that.
There's not newbie versus intermediate. I think, broadly speaking, you could have the same offers but just be better at them. I know beginners like newbies who come along and offer everything and say, I will do everything for you in your marketing. I know ones who come along and say, I'm going to be really specific and I'm going to be a cold outbound email specialist for retail estate agents or something like that, right? Real estate agents. So that's that there is no beginner versus intermediate, really. I know I'm bad at answering that one because I'm not really sure what to say.
I feel like there's no correct answer to this, which is why you might be struggling with it. Let me put it this way. I've seen people go broad. I've seen people go narrow, and I've seen them success with both. Have success with both. I can speak today. I think in general, you'll notice that newbie-friendly offers are ones that are more broad, more related to things that are a little bit shorter so that people can get more done faster. But that's not always the case. I've definitely seen newbie people offering like landing pages, sales letters, 30, 40 page things that they would have to write. And that, you got to start somewhere. So they start as a newbie. So that isn't really connected to the offers that you have. What matters more is that as you become more specialized and more experienced in an area, then what you put out there into the world is going to become more specific. Like, for example, and I've used this on stream before, which is, you might enter into copywriting being like, I am only going to write copy for coaches related to like healing trauma or healing people from like addiction and other things like that. I've actually met people who have legitimately said that. And what I want to say to them, and I don't say this because I want to be polite, but I'll say it on stream because I'm rude. That's very narrow, because when you get a job, oftentimes you'll just have to say yes to anything that you can possibly get. And then what you'll find is, oh, the first thing that you get is writing copy for a space ad that is like a little insert ad in some other thing. It could be a banner on a website, or it could be like a little insert in a newsletter. For candles, I've brought up the candle making thing before. And hey, all of a sudden, if you knock that out of the park and you do really well, you have a good testimonial and like all of a sudden you get reached out, like poked on Upwork, or, you do cold outreach, and all of a sudden you're writing another ad for a candle. You're doing product description copy for candles. And now all of a sudden, like, you started this business wanting to like heal people and sell coaching products, but now you're just writing about candles like every moment of every single day. And that's not bad. That's usually how things go. That is a more normal thing. And you never set out to be like the candle person, the candle copywriter, but now you are, simply by dint of the experiences that you had. And yeah, that's going to help you translate your skills into other products or other niches, but it doesn't have to, because again, now all of a sudden you don't need to go broadly and try to sell your services to flower shops and other things like that. You can just reach out to other candle making businesses and be like, hey, look at all this amazing candle copy I wrote. That's going to be a more frictionless path into intermediate than the other method. Does that make sense? I feel like
some like it wide, some like it deep.
And we're back to sex toy copy. Great. This is definitely going to get demonetized.
I haven't sworn. I've only referenced child murder, and I shouldn't say that. And dildos. Definitely shouldn't say those things together. Oh.
Well, shit on my balls and call it the Pope. Like, man.
Oh no. Okay.
If you would like more vulgar copy that content, make sure to sign up to patreon.com/thecopythatshow, because we definitely can't rely on Google ad revenue.
No. All right. Would that actually get us demonetized or not? Are we safe? Because like I do it, kind of teetering the line, but
Alex, nobody is safe.
I mean, that's something I've learned. Yeah, Google. I don't even want to talk about Google ads right now.
Don't even get me started. We will eventually do videos about how to write Google copy and Google ads and stuff like that. And we have had ads like killed for the stupidest reasons. Like, for example, we used a stock image for an ad that we put together, and the image had a picture of a man like using writing a text on an iPhone, and the ad was killed by Google because, get this, according to Google's policy violations, it violated the country of India, their campaign, like political campaign laws. Just that image was banned for that reason. We tried to appeal it. Appeal was killed. Like, for whatever reason, that stock image of a dude texting on a phone violated Indian campaign law. And that's just how PPC be. So
Modi's got it in for us. Yeah.
Glaz, if we subscribe in Patreon, are we going to get like a mentorship kind of thing from you guys? No, we had a mentorship program and we killed it because it was just too time consuming. All of our time is worth way more than we can reasonably charge. And as I said earlier in the stream, you probably don't need, I will bet $100 right now that you will not benefit from mentorship. You watching this will probably not benefit from getting a will probably not benefit from getting a bentor. Anyway.
Bentor sounds like an insult as well.
You bentor. Get bentor.
Do you have bendo in America? Is that an insult?
No, we just have benzos, which is really great if you want to stay up for a really long time.
Oh, okay. All right, well, we won't go into
How about this? Listen. All right, I'm going to show my screen really quick. This is what you get when you sign up for the Patreon. Here's where you go. You can see very clearly You want playlists? We have playlists. We have a live webinar coming up on Wednesday that Warren ISV West is hosting. We have Luke and I on Sundays. We've been recording us doing media buying and copywriting for that, and conversion rate optimization for like PPC ad campaigns. We have masterclasses. You get access to all the all 16 of the masterclasses we did in 2022, as well as any of the beginner masterclasses that we have coming out. We have, let's see, bonus streams. We recently have been like streaming, and then we'll cut up the streams and then present that as like YouTube videos. If you want full access to the streams where we also do a lot of Q&A, that's available as well. You get Alex's face. Just look at that. You can make that your desktop picture. That's a free desktop when you sign up to our patreon.com/thecopythatshow.
Please don't. God, I'm like so much younger there.
If you watch the 5-hour course that Alex delivered and put together and you want the slides for it, hey, we are free if you are a member of the patreon.com/thecopythatshow. We have a bunch of mentorships, masterclasses. We don't offer mentorship. We have all of this. These are all masterclasses. Boom, 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 boom. We have literally a playlist of 9 different Q&A sessions. If you've ever had a question about copywriting, we probably answered it, and it's in this playlist. If you want bonus streams, like watching somebody write or revise copy over their shoulder, we have that too. Literally dozens of hours of that. We have, look at this, Alex's e-com adventure, where he's literally showing you how to build an e-commerce store from scratch, do all the research. Like if you ever had or wondered like, hey, how do I fill out the docs and the research documents that are mentioned in the 5-hour course that we published? Well, he literally spent like 10 hours doing that?
I'd say probably more like 15 hours. There's a couple hour episodes in, and that's an exciting announcement I've got coming back to around e-commerce, but I'm not going to say it yet.
Don't make it yet. Anyway, so that is what you get when you sign up to patreon.com/thecopythatshow. If you don't want to pay for it, you just want to see what you get, you could just go there and look at all this stuff. We have over 100 posts of stuff that you get. And so we don't need any copy to sell this. It's just there, and you can look and see with your eyeballs what you get. If you don't like what you get, don't pay for it. That's literally it. Anyway.
You got to get that dog off the screen.
Yeah. Oh,
that
yeah.
freaked me out so bad when I saw it.
Might be. Oh, why? Why?
Because that's the reason it's on because I was just on this random dog e-commerce site, and it was just the most horrifying 3D cartoon ever. It was just looking at me into my soul, and then I heard a ghost in the house when, like, in that episode. There's ghosts in the series as well, guys. So I don't actually believe in the paranormal, but
ridiculous.
Right, that's questions. So yeah, Patreon's pretty good. I forget how much there is.
People really, really excited and titillated by our ASMR.
Oh, God.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Can I dual wield the dick? Yes. If you're writing 2 emails. Oh, whoa.
Oh, okay. Different. Sorry, I didn't look at this.
It's $5 to see me touch it. It's $10 to touch it yourself if you want the dick. I, of course, am not talking about the dick. I'm talking about the dick. DIC, disrupt, intrigue, click. That's what it means. Don't demonetize us, YouTube. I can talk. How about this? How about FB ads? Do you have any writing tips aside from looking in the ad library? I mean, do we need to use framework all the time? How can you make them stop from scrolling?
There could be, all right, basics here. Just use the fundamentals of copywriting to write Facebook ads. Templatize things, as Sean explained earlier. There are a ton of free resources just out on the internet as well about like different kinds of Facebook ads you can do. Just test them. Biggest thing I will say, so kind of I know this isn't an original tip. I'm sure loads of people have said this, but the creative will make the most difference in your Facebook ad results, in my experience. The creative, by that I mean the image or the video, the biggest thing that someone will see when scrolling. I have found great success in just having the image be big text. because it's bigger text than anywhere else on Facebook. So it immediately disrupts the pattern that someone is scrolling and they see like big kind of bold text, usually just 2 or 3 words, something to do with the topic. I've mentioned this loads of times before, but like I am a massive fan of just hitting straight at the problem people have with a question mark, right? Like a massive thing recently that I've seen success with is one of the offers I run at the moment is to do with prescriptions, so like medication. Just a like the thing that is outpulling everything at the moment is just big, like just big words. Just, do you have a prescription? Like question mark. Kills, it absolutely slaughters everything else because it's direct, it's relevant, and also it's such an interrupt because if you do have a prescription, it's like, oh, okay, well, what is this? It's the exact same reason clickbait works for, in space ads and stuff like that. When it's like, oh, are you over 50 and living in, Massachusetts or whatever? It's the exact same reason. It's relevant, it's specific, and it's, oh, well, that's new, that's different. Works great.
Yeah, I mentioned before when we were talking about the Facebook ad library that the knowledge and ability you need to excel in Facebook ads is almost identical to what you need to excel in email. Like in terms of genres of copy and like similarity and cross-pollination, email and Facebook ads probably almost the same. Like you can literally copy paste an email into a Facebook ad and have it work really good. And so getting better at email is going to make you better as a Facebook ad writer. That said, another thing that I've noticed that tends to outpull in Facebook ads is the image or the video that you use, demonstrations of your product.
Yeah.
Working. Yeah. And like here's the thing. If you're selling info products, there's always a way to demonstrate something. There is always a way to demonstrate something. And part of being a good copywriter, as opposed to a merely competent one, is figuring out unique ways to illustrate or demonstrate what your product can do for people. And that could be the use of the product or like what happens to people after they've used their product, the more aspirational style of copy. Alex, would you add anything to that?
I not without getting into too many specifics, I would say definitely that demonstration is a huge thing in e-commerce. I know obviously you're coming in from an info product slant, but if you're in e-commerce and you're watching this, like just get a decent demonstration video made. It can be as simple. There's a reason influencers do so well for e-commerce products. It's because they can just film something at home, either put their phone on a tripod on a stand and just do something in front of the camera, and people will watch it because it's the process. It's the human need to close a loop, like to have that thing finished. You need to see something end. It's why we skip to the end of videos to see what the end result is. People want to see something work. We like to see a loop completed. So yeah, anytime you can evoke that emotion, especially in a Facebook ad, where if it's a cold prospect, especially, i.e. they haven't seen your business before, if you can start by showing them the problem and that you're going to solve it. Again, someone like just have back pain question mark in the top and someone kind of doing that. And then in the next 2-3 seconds, you just have like the brace being put on or the band or whatever. And then they straighten up and it feels great. And you see them running and stuff like that stuff does crazy well.
Yeah.
So I hope Glaz, I hope that helps a little bit. Yeah. Facebook ads, it's just like, as Sean says, just like emails, just like the rest of copy.
Yeah, like even if you're selling like a financial platform, like just show, and you don't have a budget for a video, like just show it before or after. Like on one half of the picture, you have a person who's looking glum, and it says, before finmoney.io.xxx, and then on the right you have the after, and the person's just like sitting there with like a bunch of money and smiling, and it says after finmoneymaker.com/porn. I don't know. That is enough of a demonstration of what something can do because it shows a story.
Although that will almost certainly get it struck on Facebook.
Oh yeah, that's
they hate before and after.
Yeah.
And they hate the implication that someone will earn something from a product.
Yeah, never.
Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook is awful when it comes to compliance considerations. We'll have to do an entire episode about compliance considerations for copy at some point.
Yeah.
What other exercises for getting better at copy, except for the 90 minutes revising one, do you recommend?
You take this, Sean. Honestly. We got to speed through these as well. I just realized because there's so many more coming in.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Exercises for getting better at copy. Reading stuff out loud once you've written it. The drawer test, which is where you'll write or practice a piece of copy, get it as good as you possibly can, put it in a drawer where you don't see it for ideally 3 or 4 days, and then pull it back out and reread it. And if you notice that it is trash, revise it more. And that iterative process of practice is going to get you better, because when you're too close to something, you don't notice what's wrong with it. And I would advise that people do that before they ever seek critiques from anybody else, because if you're going to get critiques for stuff that you already know how to do, you're not going to improve. You're just be like, oh yeah, you're right, I should have done that. The only time when you should actually actively seek critiques from somebody else is when you have taken a piece of copy as far as you can actually take it, and you go, I don't know what else there is to do here. It's at that point when a critique is actually helpful, because it's another set of eyes. It can open your eyes and perspective to other information. What is another thing?
I can launch one quick.
Yep.
If you want, just again, really, really practical. For every single line of copy you've written, and you can do this after you feel you're happy with what we would call the value edit, which we're not going to go into right now because that's a good loop for something Sean and Lindsay will be bringing out very soon. But once you're happy that the direction that you're going in is good, and you're hitting on the right topic, and you're appealing to the right emotion, then go through each line of your copy and just ask, is this supporting what I'm trying to do? Is it actually helping move someone through your argument or persuade them to do the thing you're asking them to do? If it isn't, if you can't justify it, so if it's a line that just says, like, I don't know, yeah, don't you think that's just the best thing in the world? ? Like, is that actually assisting your copy in any way, or is it just meat in the room? Is it just fluff? That is a really, really good tip for just cutting fluff. You have to directly be able to say, this is helping because this.
Yeah, here's something that I learned a lot from when I was writing copy. Imagine anything that you write, the end product has to be 50% of what you wrote. Doesn't matter what you wrote. If you wrote a 20-word sentence, say the same thing as powerfully in 10. If you wrote a 10,000-word sales letter, say the same thing as powerfully in 5,000 words. Once you train your brain to like cut and like really drill down to the bone, like what can remain and still have the same impact? What did I write that doesn't help with the conversion or what you're trying to accomplish? That is an extremely educational process. And it's one that you can do by yourself for free. Write a thing, put it away for 4 days, and then pull it back out and say, okay, how do I do this, but with half the page space? So that's one way to do it. This person has dropped in twice to tell me to get a wig. Let me put it this way. If you donate and join the patreon.com/thecopythatshow, I'm going to use the money that I make from this business to buy hair plugs. I'm going to buy hair implants with the money that I make from Copy That. We have so far personally made zero money from Copy That. All the revenue that we get from the business, we have so far reinvested in the business. That is for better production, cool lighting, better cameras, better audio. All the money that we've made for Copy That, we've kept in the business. We have not paid ourselves at all. But that's going to change at some point. And when it does change, all the money that I make from Copy That, I will use to either buy a wig or hair implants. So if that's not a motivator to join the Patreon, I don't know what is. You won't have to look at my bald head anymore.
That's what I joined for, but okay.
Yeah. Go up, bald head, as they said in the Bible. All right, Rex asks, no, legitimately, that's a quote from the Bible.
What?
Go up, bald head.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to Google that after this.
No, legitimately. So, okay, this is a story from the Old Testament where a dude was just walking down the street and a bunch of kids were like making fun of this dude because he was bald, and this dude prayed to the Lord, and the Lord sent like a pack of wolves to tear these kids up because they made
What?
fun of him because he was bald.
What?
Let me pull
Oh,
up this
man.
passage.
The Bible is batshit in a good way, but like,
Oh yeah, Kings 2:23, 2 Kings. Okay. Let me find this.
I'm making it. Whenever anyone says, "What's your favorite passage of the Bible?" I'm making it mine.
Yeah. And he went up from thence unto Bethel, and as he was going up the way, there came forth little children out of the city and mocked him and said unto him, "Go up, thou bald head, and go up, thou bald head." And then the dude prays, and the Lord sends a bunch of bears to fuck up these kids.
Oh, bears! Jesus!
Yes!
What?
The Bible is terrible.
Christianity and Judaism. What are you guys on? Like, oh my goodness me!
I don't know.
mean, you can tell. I bet the guy who wrote that one was definitely bald. He's thinking like,
kids,
sorry,
stupid kids.
I'm putting this down somewhere, so in 1,000 years, people.
You better be careful too, AB.
Yeah,
or I'll call a motherfucking bear down on you.
If you see some like brown furry mass moving outside your window, I would lock the door. My God. Okay. Well, educational. Who says copy that as an educational?
Oh, that was the most educational thing I think we talked about today.
Kings 2:23.
Yep. 2 Kings, chapter 2, verse 23. There you go. All right. Rex asks, let's say you are writing services pages or a services page for a marketing agency selling email marketing, website building, lead gen, growth hacking, etc. What is the purpose of the services page if there are not deeper dive landing pages for individual services, rather just showing off the services briefly? Wait, hold on. Are you asking us to read the minds of a business that you're working for?
That's a very good answer.
But people do stuff all the time, sometimes for stupid, silly, senseless reasons. They might just here's an entire possibility. They might want to have all that stuff showcased on a services page because they feel like it. Like the business owners legitimately do stuff for reasons like that. And here's the thing. They might have in their head like, oh, well, that's just going to showcase the breadth of what we're capable of. It doesn't matter if there's a deep dive page on there or not. So that's something to keep in mind. Like, there's not always a logical reason that clients have to make you do things.
Some people just pray that bears come and maul children. So you can't.
Bald
I
people
don't know. Yeah, bald people.
All people do.
Sean's ilk. All right. Anyway.
How fast can someone go from $0 to $1, and what is the best way to go about it? Definitely robbing a convenience store is probably the fastest way, or finding $1 on the street. Definitely, that's the fastest way.
Or selling your body. You know,
I can't condone that. Robbing a convenience store, yes, but that no. No, this person is asking this question as it pertains to copywriting, I would hope. And the answer is, how fast can someone go? Instantly. How do I know? Because I did it. Like, I worked in-house and I rose up and I learned copywriting while I was working for a business, a direct marketing publishing business. And so I was literally paid to learn copywriting. I was making money before I ever even put out a piece of copy into the world. That is one of the advantages of working in-house. If you're freelance, you kind of have to work eat what you kill kind of thing. You're always hunting for a prospect or hunting for a source of income. That's stressful. And if it's one thing I've learned about learning, it's that when you're stressed, you don't learn so much. And so, hey, what I would advise people is to get a fucking job and work there and use that job to get paid to learn. It really, really helps. That's not going to be available for everybody, certainly. But there is this weird notion that people have that if they get a job, they are selling out. They are, taking the blue pill or what have you, which is ridiculous. Learn and get better on someone else's dime. Just do that. So that's what I would advise.
Yeah, we go and watch the client acquisition videos that you can find at youtube.com/copy that. the 101 playlist. You can also see it linked in the description of this video, because we talk about the best way to start earning money as a copywriter. We've got, if you just go to our YouTube channel and just search within our YouTube channel, money and client, you will see videos where we've discussed this in depth many times. So hopefully they help you.
Yeah. Seriously, if you just want to get $1, the first copywriting job I ever did, like what I would call copywriting, was ghostwriting something for a client, actually a university professor. And I got it by putting out an ad on Craigslist. I'd never heard of copywriting before. I put out an ad on Craigslist, and somebody responded, and I got $5,000 a gig. That was my first paycheck for writing copy. It was $5,000 to ghostwrite a book. That was my first gig ever. And then I eventually went in-house and I learned copywriting in there. And so like you can put out an ad anywhere, Fiverr, Upwork. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's competitive. But also what you'll learn when people don't respond to you is, oh, hey, 100 people haven't responded to me. I might as well try something a little different. And that is how you learn and get better at copywriting. Trying something, failing, and improving it. And you can do that for your Upwork profiles as well as your copy. So, do you have anything that you would want to add to that?
No, I think we've covered that.
Yep. What questions should you be asking when annotating copy? There are a lot. Alex, let's do 3 each.
I'm going to cheat a little bit. And I think the best thing that you should ask, and this kind of should underlie everything else, is what was the author's intention here? Or the writer, I should say, rather than author. But yeah, what was the writer's intention? What do you think they were trying to do? That, I think, is the most all-encompassing question you could ask, because it's going to help you to stay on the right track while you're annotating. Because if you understand the intention behind it, you can start to link the intent to specific tactics. Even if you're reverse engineering it. If you were just saying, well, I think, and also, I mean, we'll share some of our annotations at some point, but like, my early ones are bad. They're really bad. I'm just like labeling stuff. I'm just going like, like benefit, feature. That was literally it. I really started to kind of level up when I started to ask, okay, what are they trying to do here? And that turned into, well, they're opening a loop to try and get us to read on further, or they're using proof to back up the claim they've just made. That's a question I would definitely recommend.
Yeah, intent is really good if you're talking about copy, not so much if you're talking about literature. The function of things. What is this doing in context? I don't just mean like, how is this email fitting into a gauntlet or a welcome sequence or what have you, but a larger marketing strategy. But you can also ask it of individual, what is this sentence doing in the context of a larger argument or piece of copy? Like just asking yourself what the function of stuff is going to be so illuminating to you, because it's going to force you to think. And thinking is the one thing that ChatGPT can't do. So, and also 90% of the people in the freelance market can't do it either. So you're immediately, by cultivating that skill, going to be better than most of your competition. Learn to think. And part of that is forcing yourself to ask questions that allow you to critically assess what you are reading.
And then lastly, I again, this is something that you can do after the fact, but I would still be asking it while you're annotating, is where could I apply this? So once you've annotated something and you said, okay, using this technique, ask yourself, okay, where could I practice this? How could I use it in something I'm doing? So you're writing a spec piece, try to implement it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it won't work, but I personally think the best way to learn and to keep things a second nature, or to make things second nature, is to try using them after you've learned them. Because it then becomes far easier to understand how it works when you try to do it for yourself.
Yeah, that is a very good piece of advice. Thoughts on the book Cashvertising? It's fine. I enjoyed it. Have you read Cashvertising?
I don't think so.
I pulled it up while we were talking. Like, this is chapter 2. This is how it's written. The whole thing is 17 foundational principles of consumer psychology, selling the scare. It's very clearly written, as you can see. There's very specific itemized tips, like why you would want to do stuff. There's a whole lot of information, egomorphing, instant identification. There's a whole lot of examples. There's a whole lot of like very specific things from ads. It's written in a way that's actually kind of entertaining, which, you know, is delightful. If you like want to know whether or not you should read this book, it's fine. It's, as you can see, it's fine. And of all the books ever written about copy ever, I would definitely say that this is one of them. And so if you want to read it, via con Dios, dude. Anything else to add about advertising?
No, I feel it would be wrong of me to add to it, considering I haven't read it.
There you go. Let's see. Can I be hired into a copywriting job remotely from another country? Yes. Okay. Let's see. Another one. I hope that person was not expecting a more robust answer, because the answer is just obviously yes, because people have done it. Now, is it the easiest thing in the world? No. If you are learning English, if you are in another country, if there's a business that wants people in an office and you are on the other side of the world, yeah, you're playing on hard mode. So go into it with that knowledge. Let's see. What's harder nowadays, Google or Facebook ads? Facebook ads.
I would say it completely depends on what you're writing for. But like, I certainly have more experience in Google ads than I do Facebook ads. And Google ads are always my primer. When I'm ever starting a business or starting a new venture, Google ads are the first thing that I will do.
Yep. Same.
Intent-based, gives you a flavor of the market. Great way to test messaging. Just fantastic.
If you know what you're doing, they can be cheap. It'd be a really cheap way to get data very quick.
Yep, exactly. Facebook ads, I know less about, I would say. But again, if there's Facebook, okay, here's something I do know about Facebook ads. For local advertising, Facebook ads are really good as well, because you can target by postcode, or zip code, I guess, in America. And if you're doing a local service-based business, I know they're far proportionally, they're far better than other kinds of ads you could do on Facebook. That's kind of the extent of my knowledge. Harder, I don't know. Depends.
Yeah, like Alex said, it depends on what you're doing. But in terms of like an easy layup for media buying and just getting information, Google's pretty good. Yeah. Is it the best? I don't know. You know, that's, you know, some people don't like wearing rayon. Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna depend on your personal, like, idiosyncratic sense of the world. I've used that word twice in this particular stream, and I think that's my quota for the month. The use of, I'm not going to say it. This is a lovely compliment. The Patreon is worth a lot more than $20 a month if you're on the fence. She is, of course, talking about the patreon.com/thecopythatshow, where we have a bunch of bonus streams and other stuff like that. This stream has had way too many plugs, and that is not going to be the last one. But for the sake of what we're talking about now, I'm going to lie and say that was the last one. Do you have anything about writing B2B white papers? No.
Nope.
Nope.
Not in copy that, and not personally.
Nope. That
what
is
a white paper. Like I probably Googled it at some point, but I don't actually know what it is.
Yeah, like honestly, it's a sort of more technical style document, like either a proof of concept or it's a bizarre piece of marketing that combines like copywriting plus technical writing and other things like that. You're effectively trying to sell to other people with a large set of knowledge. Now, I could be getting some details of that wrong, but like, for example, the thing that invented Bitcoin was a sort of a white paper. Like the Vitalik Buterin, when he invented Ethereum, released his ideas about Ethereum in a white paper. And so they're often very technical in nature, and they're often like more of a proof of concept. Like, here is how we can do a thing. And that's often tied to a product or a service that does the thing.
So kind of like almost like a soft proposal type.
Yeah, más o menos, man. Like, that is certainly a niche we could go down, but like a very small portion of the human population is ever going to need to write a white paper. And like, I don't even know if there's a whole lot of money in it. So it's like, should I advise people to do this? I don't know.
We certainly don't have anything.
Yeah, we ain't got nothing. We got opinions that we are pulling out of our butts. That's what we got.
Best place to keep them.
Hold on, at patreon.com/thecopy that show.
Oh man, that wasn't even like 15
You thought the
seconds.
plugs were done? No, the plugs are not done.
Plugs at our ass, which is another. Anyway, next question.
You can tell when the stream goes past 2 hours long when we start losing our freaking minds. Let's see. How would you promote your services without using testimonials or metrics?
Spec pieces. Best way to do it. Not guarantees as such, but striking a relationship with someone which is very candid, very, I will do this thing for you, we'll see if it works. If it does, great, we'll do more together. If it doesn't, fair enough. Being very open. Also, you can be a little kind of not sly, but like you certainly can say that you focus on this thing. Like you can certainly say, oh, I focus on writing for local restaurants. And if you've got spec pieces to back it up, they can't prove you wrong. As long as you're not saying, hey, I have done X number of things for different restaurants when you haven't. Don't lie, but you certainly can show that you are interested in this thing or it's your focus point. Become a specialist when an opportunity becomes available, So hopefully that helps a little bit. But again, go to the client acquisition, YouTube videos, patreon.com videos that we have for sure. Anything for you on that, Sean?
Nope, that was perfect. That was a perfect answer in every way. Let's see. I just joined the Discord and I'm 3 hours into the beginner vid, but it feels overwhelming and I feel like I will never make money on it. Can y'all explain how money is actually made in copywriting? Businesses.
Well, you go.
Yeah. Here's how you make money from copywriting. Businesses sell stuff. Businesses that don't sell stuff die. They go bankrupt because they aren't making any money. So what is a girl to do? You write copy. I overuse that. I'm not going to use that joke anymore from this point forward. That's also a lie. They need people to write words that sell. They also, there's direct selling. Hey, this thing is 90% off for the next 2 minutes. Buy now. That's copy. There's also indirect selling, which is like a blog post or an article or a piece of content that sort of like solves a problem or shows you how to do things or shows you like a list of resources or what have you. That's more indirect. You can get paid for that too. And what we mostly talk about is sales copywriting, but we are venturing into territory where we often talk more about brand copywriting, which is delayed or indirect response kind of copywriting. And the way that you get money is you get hired by a business. That's it. And part of the skill of copywriting is learning how to get hired by a business, which we have content about. I'm not going to do another plug.
That's good. Okay. Next. Oh, you mute yourself, Sean. Even.
Oh. Can you please do an example of copywriting? I'm learning, but I can't yet grasp the concept of how to do it or what it should look like before the companies give it their own touch to put as ad.
So I'm going to direct you to if you go to youtube.com/copy that, you go on the live tab and you look at how to, I think it's called How to Become a Copywriter in 2023, something like that. It's about 4 hours long. We did a whole stream that answers that question in depth. So definitely head over there and watch that.
Yep. And also, as we said earlier in the stream, read your emails. Search the internet without ad block. Literally just open your eyes to the advertisements that are being like fire hosed at you every second of every single day. All of that are examples of copywriting. You don't need us to give you an example of copywriting. You can rewind this stream and see examples that I've shown. But like you don't need me to hold your hand and like pat you on the ass and say, go forth, this is what it looks like. You could just literally look at the world and you can't avoid advertisements. You probably saw an ad at some point during the stream because hopefully we weren't demonetized yet. That was copywriting. So those are all examples of copywriting. Alex, how's life and the biz going with the health company? How you been? What you up to? How's Ed? How are you?
Rex, I love you, but we do not have time to answer all of that right now. Generally speaking, yep, going fantastically well. I've been good, pretty overwhelmed, but good, and rearranging a lot of stuff. Ed is also good. He is one of my juniors at the moment. And yeah, I'm fine. Thank you for asking. How are you, Rex? We can chat in the DMs. But yeah,
sounds good. Yeah. Everyone talks about benefits over features, benefits. But if a feature is important, what are 1 or 2 examples where a feature would trump a benefit?
I think it's probably wrong to think about features and benefits as completely different things in this context, because basically there's always a benefit to a feature. If we're breaking it down to that, there's always a feature always means something to someone. Like, you couldn't name a single feature to me that I couldn't extrapolate a benefit from, because there's always a perception of why that feature is good, even if it's something in and of itself that is a benefit. So for example, a pen. I was going to say a sturdy something, but Sean is I think demonstrating sex to me. Sean is Sean is being very mature.
I'm
Oh
always
God, no!
demonstrating sex to you.
Oh no, we've gone back. Oh, podcast listeners are in for a treat. So yeah, for example, like a feature in and of itself can be a benefit. For example, okay, we'll take a pen for example. It has, I don't know, let's say 20 miles worth of ink in it. Okay, that is a feature and a fact, but in and of itself is basically a benefit. You don't need to over explain what that means. Someone can immediately in their own head realize that's a lot of ink, or it writes well, or it's a ballpoint, which is what I'm after. Those are all features, and if someone is looking for that thing, you don't need to then change a ballpoint into being a benefit necessarily. If someone has already sold themselves onto that feature being important, I think extrapolating it into a benefit is not necessary. E-commerce is a really good example, a really good area. Anything physical, there are so often elements of physical products that you don't need to do a big benefit of, because it's so obvious what that thing is. For example, when you're selling protein powder or you're selling beef jerky, for example, you only need to state how much protein is in that per gram, right? Per 100 grams, there are 72 grams of protein, right? Like, if someone understands the world of protein, they're going to be like, hey, that's really good. You don't need to then say like, oh, this is loads. You can do, and you can demonstrate as a benefit, but don't think of it as there are features and there are benefits, and they're two completely different things. Sometimes a feature can be perceived as a benefit just because it is. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
I think that makes sense. Where I was getting at was a pen. Here's a feature. It has a cap. Cap for your convenience. Now, what's the benefit? The benefit is that it allows you to keep your ink moist. Sorry, my child is out in the hallway trying to get into my office and explode onto the scene and become a YouTube star. Anyway, the fact that it has a cap, that's a feature. How does it benefit somebody? Well, you have to think about the desires that people have. Well, you don't have to pay for another pen every single 3 days if you keep the cap on. So that saves you money. The money saving is the benefit. The feature is the cap. So that's the difference. Most people don't need a whole slew of benefits to be sold on a pen, because they wake up in the morning and they want a pen. And like Alex said, physical products, or any sort of product where there is some sort of nascent demand, well, really, people are aware of these products. And oftentimes, you just need to articulate what the features of something are in order to sell it. Like, for example, if you're selling a car, you don't need to mention the benefits of automatic windows. You just say that the windows are automatic, because everybody sort of already knows, based on years of experience and just living in life, why automatic windows are a thing. You don't need to re-articulate what the benefits of an automatic window is. That would just be a waste of time in your copy. But there might be some spliffily, googly, minimum thing in a car that is worth articulating, and people might not immediately understand what the benefit of that thing is. And
Yeah.
so that's when you would use that.
And just as a back to e-commerce for a second, because it's my nerdy subject. A good way to think about e-commerce certainly is not to be product centric, not to kind of like, because for some products, again, this is with some things, some products that are just people know why they're buying them. You don't be product centric, because there's no point in explaining the benefits of a pen. Be offer centric. Make the offer really, really valuable. So, is it a great value? Is it a great price you're doing it for? Do people get free things with it? Make it more enticing to just buy the thing than make the thing itself enticing. Let's have a whole episode on that in offer building. But
Yeah.
okay, next one.
Next one. We should do an episode on offer building. Absolutely. Let's see. As a copywriter, can I add to my skill set other skills like funnel building and email marketing? Yes, Luke, that was Luke's advice earlier in the episode. Definitely rewind and rewatch the entire thing, all 3 hours and 10 minutes of it. Let's see. I'm trying to get the idea of what a services page is, but I don't understand them.
Services page, just literally where you list the services of each.
Yeah.
Go to any marketing agency and just click on services, and you'll see what a standard services page looks like.
Yeah,
just lists the services, literally.
It's the same as catalog copy. Like, if you've never read a catalog is going to confuse you. So go read catalogs if you want to write catalog copy. Same thing. Like, go to a services business and look at their services pages. You will learn. That's what they're for. How do you add curiosity to your copy without losing any coherency? I'm going to show you an example that I just pulled up while Alex was talking. A thimble full of this living metal sells for this amount of money. Wow, that's a headline that is intriguing and curiosity driven, but doesn't reveal what it is. All of a sudden, living metal, man, I want to know what it is. Obviously, it's valuable. One tiny company has a monopoly on it. What? That's crazy. Its sales are set to surge 24,474% over the next 15 months. What? That's crazy. That could mean I could make a lot of money. And it could go public on the NASDAQ as soon as August 31st. Oh, man, that is nuts. And it says a thimbleful, and it shows a thimble. Oh, man, without even reading the copy, I can tell you that this is curiosity and driving a lot of curiosity. Doesn't matter how you feel about the copy, it is very specific, and that is the key. Most people confuse curiosity and intrigue with vagueness. But is there anything about this headline complex that is vague? I would argue no. Living metal, that is a very specific name for a thing that is going to get revealed later. A thimble is a very specific amount. Showing what a thimble looks like, okay, that makes it even more specific. One tiny company, it ain't a whole index of companies. Its sales are set to surge a very specific amount in a specific time. It could go public on a specific place by a specific date. Specificity is the key to coherent curiosity. That is going to be a Sean quote from now on. But look at this. All these pages are all about look at this. Compare this thimble to gold, platinum, diamonds, a thimble full of anything. Drop it in the bucket compared to what I'm going to show you today. It's all very specific. Look, you can only find the substance at a specific island. Look at that. Look at that. That's all very specific. And that is how you drive curiosity and intrigue in copy without seeming incoherent. Lots and lots of specific details that don't give away what you're trying to reveal. There you go. Alex, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think we got that.
Okay. Cold calling versus cold email. Should I take more time to craft a cold email or do a bunch of cold calls?
Oh man, if you're open to cold calls, do cold calls. Best way to learn, blood yourself on that, because it's uncomfortable, I tell you that, but it's a good way to go. But yeah,
Yep.
go back, watch our cold pitching videos. Absolutely.
Yep. Where are those available?
Those are available on youtube.com/copythat. They're also available on patreon.com/copythatshow.
Okay. Yes. Alex, are you going to grow out the beard?
Honestly, I'm not making a kind of intentional drive for this. I just haven't shaved because I'm a very disgusting person. I've been very, very busy this last kind of week. So I usually shave every 2 days, but I just haven't. So maybe it depends. Probably not going to shave tonight, and I'm definitely not going to shave tomorrow because I got a shit ton to do because I have to go really early. So maybe.
Yeah. Is it midnight for you there?
It is 11:15, so it's
Okay.
getting on.
You're a sleepy boy, and we need to get you out of here. So
Oh,
let's speed answer some questions. Good books about Google Ads. The Perry Marshall Ultimate Guide to Google Ads.
Yep, agree. It's the one I
Done.
read.
Are there free SEO tools to do keyword research? Yes, trends.google.com, the keyword planner available on ads.google.com, and also a Chrome plugin called Keywords Anywhere. And if you want to look on my screen, there, I can use a computer. Look at this. All this. Look at this information. SEO
Keywords
difficulty,
everywhere.
trends, related keywords, trending keywords. This is all free. I do not pay for Keywords Anywhere, and this is what I get. So if you want a free resource, that is a one of them. How do I find the indirect voice of the customer?
Oh man, so I mean I know you've probably seen my stuff. Then go to forums, comment sections, anywhere that people are talking about a thing, whether that be a product, a problem, whatever. And as long as they know they're not being probed for market research, which basically is most places on the internet, because most people are just saying what they think online. That's where you collect IVOC, right? That's where you collect that data. So I mean, I definitely I give a list of places in my research videos and in the 5-hour video in the research section. So, yeah.
Yep. That listen, our most viewed video is your 5-hour course, and you went over all that stuff. Like, it's really helpful. So I personally, I like eavesdropping in conversations. Like, I just listen to people. But I also do a lot of my research like in person. Like, I call people, I talk to people, I go to libraries, I do like hard research. I'll strike up conversations with people. I'll ask them questions. I'll do interviews, things like that. And so like that's how I do research. And you learn a lot about prospects when you do that kind of stuff. Using formulas. When is it okay? Always. But if you obviously use a formula, it's going to feel amateurish and it's going to seem like amateurish copy. So you listen, use a crutch until you're capable of walking. That's my advice.
Yep, agree.
What's the best way to master email automation and which aspects should be focused on?
Man,
that is the whole video.
These are topic long video questions, man.
Yeah. I did a masterclass for patreon.com/thecopythatshow where I literally talked about the logic of email sequences. And I tried to focus not on like what you should do in an email sequence. This first email should do this. The second email should do this. I tried to instead talk about the logic of why and how to think about email sequences in a way that would actually be helpful to people capable of critical thought. And so I would highly advise taking a look at that because hopefully that was helpful. But there is so much you can do when it comes to email automation. The expert, I would say, in that field is probably a guy named Andre Chaperon, Chaperon. He has a course called Autoresponder Madness. And I don't think I could name a better resource on how to do email automation than him. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think I've spoken about strategy in the Copy That Discord server before. If you're in there and I think you probably just type in strategy, search it from my name, you'll find it. And I kind of go into the kinds of things you need to think about whenever you're automating emails. One thing I found is basically the more you email, the better your results. What have they seen before? What behaviors have they taken before? Focus on behavior before anything else is my biggest piece of advice.
Yep. And in my email sequences masterclass, I have an entire spiel about behavioral marketing and like trying to understand it. But the very quick spiel of that is like, it's just if-thens. If a person opened this email, show them this. If a person did not open this email, show them this. That's email automation. If then. If I join the Patreon, will I become the best Algerian copywriter? I don't know any other Algerian copywriters besides you, so I would say that it is certainly within the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
What if your copy is not good? If it doesn't deliver the results to the customer, do you offer redos? Alex, what do you think?
It's completely up to you. I personally always have. So if someone has ever said to me like, "Oh, I'm not happy with this, then I will go, okay, I will always ask them, okay, what aren't you happy with? And then I'll rewrite it. I know some people are a lot more like, no, I've done this. This was what we agreed. That's the end of it. I'm just not like that as a person. I like to make sure people are happy, so they have a good kind of memory of me when they go on and potentially refer or review. So I always have. Really is my answer to that.
Awesome. Evan says, white papers are really trendy right now for small businesses to ask for. I've written 2, but neither of them were actually white papers in the traditional sense. It seems like people want a long, this is my business and this is the idea, but they both refuse anything technical or even to present evidence in the white paper. You're going to encounter clients like this all the time. Like whether through colder outreach or on Upwork, you are going to encounter clients who will say that they want a thing, and then you're going to give them the thing that they want, and they're going to be like, that's not what I wanted. It happens all the freaking time. And part of getting better at writing copy is learning how to read between the lines and also ask better questions of your clients so that you can make sure that you deliver unto them what they actually want. Yeah. Anything you want to add to
that? No, I agree with that.
Alex, why do you use such closed body language? JK, I am just... Did you just remind me of a shy girl in a club?
What is Alex, closed body language?
I want you to get like real sweaty and then show off your pits.
My pits like that? Yeah, I'm wearing like 2 layers under this, so probably the first one is manky.
You just need to sweat more.
I don't know why I use closed. I'm not even sure what closed body language is. I cross my arms a lot when I'm here because it's quite uncomfortable to rest my arms out like this because of, I mean, you can't really see, but like I have a kind of an arm rest here, but then it's slightly below where the desk starts, but not enough to comfortably kind of be like this. I think I'm stretching right now because I've been like this quite a lot because they hurt, but I assume that's what closed body language is. Is it like that? I'm also quite hip and fly, so
I assume that they mean that you were like a 14-year-old goth girl, or I guess an emo girl, or a scene girl, depending on like which part of the world you're in. And you're like, your shoulders are hunched forward. You're like looking down at the ground a little bit. You're sort of like, you're talking like this a little bit. You're just shy. You're afraid. You don't know how to set boundaries. Yeah. That's obviously what they meant.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't know. I probably want to be a shy goth girl in another life.
I mean, I was a shy goth girl in another life. So
I mean, Avril Lavigne was my crush growing up. So like,
she was pretty cool. Avril Lavigne was pretty cool. I was more into like Susie Sue, Susie and the Banshees. I was into the Riot Girl scene for a while. Friggin' Kathleen Hanna is a freaking beast, and I have so much respect for her. She's so cool. Kathleen, that is my controversial statement for the day. Kathleen Hanna is the best. So there.
Better than Avril Lavigne.
Yeah, nobody, and people are gonna be like, "Who is Kathleen Hanna?" Look it up. Yeah. Bikini Killers, amazing. Yeah, there you go. So what? And Latigra is amazing too. What I'm getting is when the benefit of the feature isn't obvious, mention the benefit, but if it's obvious, don't bother.
I would say that I would say that is an okay way of describing it when it comes to e-commerce. I think that people still need to be reassured that features exist. So like, don't leave them wondering if this is a thing or not. For example, if I have, this is a real life example. If I have a stand for something, it was a, I don't know what you call it. Oh God, I can't remember what it was. It was a, what musicians hold, like music stand, I guess you'd call it. They hold the sheets of music on. I don't know what that is. I remember I was reading about one once. Just a stand? Okay. Yeah, all right, there we go. Yeah. I was just using that. I was reading about that once, or I was in a conversation with someone once, and they didn't put on that it was extendable, or the height was changeable. They just didn't include it. I don't even think because they thought it was really obvious. They just didn't include it. And what they found is when they did include that, the conversion rate went up. And I think, again, like at the time I remember thinking, is that purely because they've added, I think they may have changed other things, so I can't put it just down to that, but certainly mention things. You don't need to like extrapolate a big benefit from that. You don't need to go on and on about it, but you can just say like, oh, adjustable. And people go, oh, cool, adjustable between this and this height. Quick measure, yep, that works for me. Great. So
yeah, I think it was Eugene Schwartz who talked about also like once a market has become saturated, like everybody has seen every appeal, every feature, every benefit, stuff like that. That is actually when there's an opportunity for really creative, really lateral thinking copywriters to look at something that everybody knows, everybody has seen, and then invent basically a new way of looking at it, a way to either build intrigue, a new hook, or to draw out a benefit that nobody has talked about for years because everybody knows that, cigarettes are toasted. And that's a famous example, Marlboro, they're toasted. I can't remember that's the correct ad, but you know what I'm talking about, Alex, where it's like you can
Yeah.
reinvent an entire campaign and reinvigorate a product and get a lot of sales simply by looking at something old in a new way. So, is it just me who always drunk watches the stream?
I drunk host the stream, so don't worry.
Yeah, I personally, I don't drink when I get on the stream. I just slam back a few dilaudid pills and a couple of oxys and, just hope for the best.
This is just rum.
Are there any other communities like Copy That or the CC? Ouch.
Yeah, that's what are you saying? Yeah.
Oh, my heart.
Probably. No, there are none other like the Copy That and the CC. We are one of a kind. We are awesome.
Yeah,
there's probably a bunch.
Let me put it this way. I've definitely been aware of Facebook groups. Like that's a thing that people participate in. I don't, because I haven't seen the value in it. I am on the CC, the Copywriting Collective, because it's funny and fun and interesting to me. But like, have I improved as a copywriter as a result of being on there? No, I don't think so. Other people have, but I mostly am there for the jokes, like the internet. The internet is for jokes, and anybody who takes it seriously is a bad person. How long should one spend on a cold email generally?
Depends how good you want it to be. Depends how researched you want it to be. Depends what method you're using. Could be literally 5 minutes. Could be 3 hours. Depends on if you're going for short, direct, hey, let's talk, or it depends if you're going for a whole research. Hit them with something that's completely relevant to them. Show them that you've researched their company and that you can help them a lot, and you've made an audit for them or something. So there's no right or wrong answer.
Yep. All right. Listening in from Nigeria. Hello. Please, how can one write good leads that keep the reader's eyes glued to the email to the end? I wouldn't call the beginning of an email a lead necessarily. Leads for me are very specific to sales letters. And again, you're going to encounter clients and other people who like use terminology very flexibly and imprecisely. That's a common thing in the copywriting and marketing world. One thing can mean many different things. But good leads that keep the reader's eyes glued to the email to the end, you have to learn what to omit, and what to include. And what to include is usually enough specific information related to what the person reading it is interested in. There's a famous anecdote where somebody was like, hey, people don't read newspaper articles anymore. And a dude was like, I bet you $1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000 that I could get a person to read a full newspaper article. And the dude was like, what? That's a lot of made up money. I am going to take that bet. And that person was like, okay. And he paid to have a newspaper article written. And he just included the name of a particular prospect in the headline. And the person wrote in to be like, yeah, I read the whole thing because I was looking for a mention of my name. Like, appeal to people's self-interest, and people are generally interested in themselves. Even if they think they're Mother Teresa and totally selfless, people are interested in their own world, their own problems, the things that they want in life, and their own sort of predilections and dispositions and prejudices. So like, the way to keep a person reading is to lean into that, the things that people want, and intrigue people according to the things that people want. Oftentimes that's more money. Sometimes that's personal power. Sometimes that's like a community. Sometimes that's the human desire to love and to be loved. Sometimes it's to be sad. Like, seriously, people will sometimes read stuff because they want the catharsis of just crying. That's actually why I watched the show The Last of Us. But that's neither here nor there. That is how you keep a person reading. Any other thoughts?
Yep. Open the loop. It's a simple piece of advice. Open the loop. It's the time-tested, proven way to get people to keep reading. Show them there's going to be something implicitly promise them that there's going to be something that they're going to either get out of reading this email, or they're going to directly read out of getting to the end of the email. So yeah, I mean, again, I'd say famously, infamously, for people of the copy that community and the patrons, they'll know from my CV masterclass when I was writing my CV, one of the first lines of that is something, I can't remember how I phrase it exactly, but something about there being this newspaper ad that I attribute all my success to, and I include that at the end of the CV. So, and I was told by the people who hired me, the company I'm now working with, about 3 months after I got the job there, they were like, "Yeah, they're like, I read your whole CV because I wanted to know if you'd mention that again." And then I got to the end, and then you said that you'd have to come to an interview for us to mention it. So yeah, I love that kind of thing. I hooked them at the beginning. I promised them something, and they kept reading because they wanted to close the loop on it. So yeah, there you go.
There you go. A few more questions, and then we need to call it because you're a sleepy boy, and I have other stuff that I need to do, like be a dad to people, like little tiny people. What other benefits are in copywriting in terms of opportunities except monetization?
I'm not sure what you mean.
I think this person is saying, like, is copywriting worth learning even if I don't monetize the skill? And I would say the answer is yes, because copywriting, what it comes down to is persuasion. Learning how to write to a human being with human feelings and human thoughts and articulate things in a way that excites, entices, and moves them to action. And that is a useful skill, whether you are writing pills, like ads for like pills or supplements related to, how should I say, a lack of tumescence in your nether regions. That is applicable if you are writing college essays. It's applicable if you're writing scholarship. It's applicable if you're writing news articles. It's applicable if you're writing a journal. And so all like copywriting really comes down to just matching up what we understand or know about human psychology with rhetoric and how to argue things and move things in a way according to human psychology. It's really what it comes down to. So yeah, I think copywriting is a good skill.
Yeah, that's perfect.
When you writing, do you force yourself to think before writing anything and while writing, or you just write without thinking much? I can tell that this person has an opinion. Sorry, is that mean? That might be mean. Listen. Yes, thinking before you write is important, and thinking carefully about how you wish to write is also important. Now, are there situations where just free writing and just vomiting words out onto a page is helpful? Yes, certainly there are. Not always, and usually not. Anything you want to add to that?
I think that when you're beginning, like I said earlier, I think it's important to have a brief plan about what you're going to write. I am a big advocate. Even now I do this, but I'd say majority of the time I still do this. If I'm writing something that I feel needs kind of my copy brain on it, some emails, of course, I can just shit out and like, yep, I know that'll work, send it out. But if I'm writing like a brand new sales page or something, I will do something called a spit draft, where I write kind of what beats I want to hit at different points. So I'm going to go, right, I'm going to open with this, then I want to bring in this proof, and then I'm going to discuss this biggest benefit that people seem to care about. Then I'm going to deal with this objection. I literally just write those things. I'm not writing copy. I'm just writing what I'm going to do. Then, and this is something I do, which I do less and less of now, but I like doing what I call a blitz draft, where I will just write everything I'm thinking of as I'm going through. And I've never heard anyone else kind of say that. I've never heard it framed in that way either, but I kind of just call it a blitz draft, where I will write absolutely everything in line with what I've put in my spit draft, and then I will go back and edit. What I find now is I actually do kind of edit as I go through, which is something I don't recommend beginners do, but I have done enough copywriting by now that I can just do it as I go. So I'm a bit of a hypocrite in that sense. So certainly I think you need to think about the research and you need to think about a bit of a plan beforehand. But when you get to the point where certain bits of copy is second nature, you certainly don't need to think that much. I don't need to sit down and fill out a whole template before I write, a discount email, for example. Like I can just write it. I don't even need to think about it. So yeah, it gets easier as you get on, I think.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. I'm actually a bad person to ask about that because I'm like, I will write a sentence and I'll think about the sentence and I'll rewrite the sentence and I'll move on. But I do what I call you say spit drafting, then blitz drafting. I do what I call Pac-Man drafting, which is I'll write like 250 words. I'll be like, and the moment I get to a point where I stop, where the words and like the ideas are not flowing as well, I'll go back to the beginning and reread, and I'll change stuff and I'll rearticulate stuff. And usually by the time I get to the end of revising that bit, I'll be like, okay, and the next thing is, and I'll keep writing and I'll do like another 100 words and I'll get to a stopping point, then I'll revise and reread and I'll go back to the beginning. And I'm just constantly like Pac-Man, like chomping my way back through an essay and then going back to the beginning and chomping and like revising as I do. And one of the reasons why my writing is so good when I submit a quote unquote first draft is usually because people have not seen my drafts. Usually by the time I'm done with a full draft, a full Pac-Man draft, it's like my 27th draft. It's like my 30th or 40th time rereading through what I've just written. And that's not only helpful for me in terms of like pushing through and like keeping fresh in my mind what I've already written, but also fixing what I've written along the way. It is easy for a newbie to get stuck in that loop, and you don't want to do that, but that's helped me.
Yeah. Hopefully that answers that.
All right, last two questions and we're done. We're going to go actually drink rum and do OxyContin and inject it into our eyeballs. That's what we do for fun. That's all your patreon.com/thecopy that money we're spending on oxys and getting messed up.
That is it.
So if you want to contribute to us overdosing,
sign
up to patreon.com/thecopy that show, where the benefit of becoming a patron is that you will kill us a little bit faster.
It's good. All right.
All right. I've got to write 2 service pages for 2 different locations of a SaaS Windows repair company very soon. Do you have any tips for creating service pages for businesses like this? Do you have any advice when it comes to writing service pages for businesses?
Put the most popular one at the top. Will be the first thing that comes to mind, i.e. if you're working for a plumber and it is leak repair, then you put that at the top. Whenever you have a service, like you're describing a service in a section of the page, put a CTA and a button on each service. So people want the assurance that what they're going to next is something to inquire about that service. I tell you this from experience. So just say to them, inquire about like leak repair, and then it's fine if they go to the same contact page. Totally fine. It's just that they will feel more secure that that's the thing they're inquiring about, even if you ask them to describe their problem, which you should usually be doing on a service page. If the CTA is to email, sometimes it will be to give them a phone call, of course. But for marketing agencies and more digital companies, it's going to be either to like book a Calendly, to book through a Calendly link, book a Zoom call, or to send an email. So definitely most popular services are the focus points, and then you have the CTAs attached to each one. Attach a case study to each one if possible. Another big thing, by case study, I mean, does the business you're writing for have proof of when they've done it before? Do they have specific results of how it's done well? And do they have a testimonial? Just, here's a business we worked for before. Here are the results. Here was how happy they were. Those 3 things, fine for a services page. Those would be my 3 biggest bits of advice, I think, for services pages.
Yeah, those are good pieces of advice. Another thing too is like with services in particular, especially related to like window sashes. Like I just had every window in my house replaced, and so what are my big concerns and objections as a purchaser of window sashes? I want to know that if there was a mistake or an error, that company that installed them has my back. So like you need to make sure that guarantee and warranty copy is like on point and really, really powerful. Like I want to know that if something breaks as a result of the installation, that from now until time immemorial, until Revelations occurs, back to the Bible, that they are going to come back through hail and sleet and snow to repair my frickin' window sashes that they installed. So that's an important thing too. And also related to what Alex was saying, I would like to point out, let's go to trends.google.com. Trends.google.com. Now, I would like to search for a topic. Let's do window repair near me. And let's do window sash repair near me. Now, obviously, not a whole lot going on. So what you can do is you can look and literally list out, like brainstorm, all of the features of the window sashes. And you can do, I don't know, and let's get rid of near me. Let's get rid of window sash repair. Now, let's compare, I don't know, leaky windows. Obviously, at various points, leaky windows is going to be trending more than window sash repair. And you can just do this for every single feature that you can concoct in your brain for window sashes. Sexy windows. Somehow that's outpulling. Sexy
Or restores your faith in humanity.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I threw that in there to show that sometimes you're going to have features that are not worth spelling out on the service page, but you know what? At a certain point in time between January 29th and February 4th of this year, the best service, the best thing that you could have emphasized to get a lot of traction was sexiness.
That's why I love this job.
Oh, this job is so stupid. I love it.
Sexy windows.
Sexy windows. Man, if your headline was not get the sexiest window sash as possible, you were failing as a copywriter because you obviously weren't looking at trends. And so that is what I would recommend. Literally going through and looking at your different features that you could have and also concocting a few crazy ones and seeing what's trending, because people search for what they want to find out more about, what they want to buy, etc. So let the market speak to you and inform your copy. And if you can do that, you're probably going to write some good copy.
I agree. I don't think there's anything else for me to add on that either. I think those are very practical pieces of advice.
I think now is time for us to close the show.
I agree. It's been a fun one. It's been far longer than I had anticipated.
It always is.
It always is. We have the others left like 2 hours ago, Sean.
Oh my god, I want to eat dinner, man. I'm tired. You're like 8,000 hours ahead, and you're living in the year 3000. You must be very tired.
I am tired. I mean, all that's left to say is thank you, everyone, for watching. We wouldn't have a show without you. We wouldn't have a business without you. We would have livelihoods without you because we don't take any money from this right now. But still, we love you very much. I mean, Sean, I enjoy these tremendously, as you know I do, as I hope you do too. And really, all that's left for me to say to you is go up, thou bald head.
Go up, bald head.
Go up, thou bald head. Beware the bears.
Alex put it succinctly and well, but I'm going to elaborate on it anyway. Seriously, this whole business started like on the side as a hobby, and it has grown and grown and grown. And it's grown not because of us, but because of you. And so I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, from the cockles of my heart, whatever those may be, that I am extremely appreciative. Yeah. Thank you for giving me a platform to make stupid, dumb jokes like that. If you would like to see what else we got going on and like get free guides and get Luke's 21-day how to start email sequence, that's all available on www.copythatshow.com. If you want more videos like this, go to youtube.com/copythat. If you go to videos, you'll see that we have a whole bunch. We have shorts with little snippety distillations of information. We also have a live tab where you can see the recording of this. And if you want, listen, if you don't have the money, I don't want you to spend any money on us. Like, that's fine. Like, we're not going to be like, oh, you need our stuff in order to become a copywriter. No, you can do this on your own. You are fully capable, and there are enough free resources out there that you can do this on your own. Now, if you would like to get a little bit extra information that can maybe help you accelerate your skills and growth faster, we do have patreon.com/thecopythatshow. I've plugged it many times over the course of the stream. Thank you for tolerating my bad pitches. But yeah, this is our sort of bread and butter product, where basically we try to throw everything we can onto there and hope that it sticks and hope that it helps people. That includes masterclasses, bonus streams, other over-the-shoulder kind of stuff, guides, free resources, books. Like, for example, whenever we put out a new book, we put it out to patrons first for them to review it, basically beta test it. So there you go.
Yeah. I was meant to go ask, is it actually worth getting? Nah.
No. You know what? Every single person who has a patreon.com/thecopythatshow mentorship would definitely agree that it's not worth the $20. And it's certainly not worth going to patreon.com/thecopythatshow to see what you can get and see if it could help you expand on your career and make a ton of money.
Yeah. I was actually a Patreon member before I was on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? That seems like ages ago now.
Why is this person calling us a scam for literally telling you that our stuff is not worth paying for? What the heck?
Is this bad? I know even as humor, telling people to not do things is a bad idea.
Yeah, in general, it's bad copy and marketing, but let's just say that we are investing in our brand at this point.
That we are.
Oh well. But seriously, Alex, thank you for spending so much time. I know you have a heap of work. I have a heap of work too. And all of you have a heap of work. Go practice, go level up your copy skills, use the advice that we've given you over the course of the stream, and generally just try to have a good life. Like, eat your vegetables, read a good book every now and again, pet your dog, like go for a long walk, take up meditation, keep a journal, give your mom or your dad a call, tell them you love them, like send some flowers to your grandmother. Like, she'll love that. She will love that. Trust me.
Just call your nan now. Give your nan a call. Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously. Go start a fire. Go learn how to start a fire with your bare hands. Like, seriously, that's a skill that everybody should learn. Forget copywriting. Go learn how to do fire.
As in with kindling, right? You can't just. Can you?
Yeah. Sure. Well, why not? I mean, like, I'm not talking like fire bending kind of stuff, but
that's what I was thinking. That's bare hands.
Go to the woods and learn how to build a fire. Like, set up, go camping, go out and like become one with nature. Drop a bunch of acid and PCP and become one with nature. That is our final piece of advice.
No, Sean, it's PPC, not PCP.
Oh,
what are you talking about?
I always get those confused. They can basically have the same effect on my brain.
That's why he wasn't allowed back at the Google Ads convention.
Damn it.
Oh.
All right.
Jesus Christ. Okay, let's go.
All right, bye.
Cool. See ya. Bye, guys.